If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 1, The Sun Shines on the World of GX. Kira slowly opened his eyes, bewilderedly surveying the unfamiliar surroundings. A room he had never seen before, yet it gave off a strangely familiar feeling. Sunlight streamed through the window lattices, sprinkling the soft floor with dappled patterns like twinkling stardust. Even the air seemed light and transparent under the warm sun. His head ached with a dull, hazy pain, while strange images and unfamiliar fragments flashed through his mind. Some instinct deep inside seemed to tell him of the extraordinary situation he was facing. He had transmigrated. Kira looked around the room, and his gaze was quickly drawn to the computer on the desk. The computer was on, displaying a search engine's homepage, but it wasn't any search engine he had known before. The search bar had big, clear letters, Kaiba Search. What struck him even more was the trending news below the search bar. East Capital University research team discovers new form of summoned skull, demon dex may see huge boost. Kira. Curious, he clicked to take a look. The article said the research team, after days and nights of work, had developed new potential for the famous fiend monster summoned skull, and had already published a paper in an authoritative international duel monsters journal. The team's spokesperson said they had spoken with Pegasus J. Crawford, CEO of International Illusions Incorporated, who was already assisting them in developing new cards. If he still couldn't recognize what world he'd transmigrated into, then all those years spent playing cards had been for nothing. This was the world of Yu-Gi-Oh!, a dimension where everything revolves around dueling, and society's very foundations and rules are built upon the game. There was an even more outrageous headline under the trending searches. International conflict in the Middle East eases, leaders of two countries decide to negotiate through a duel. Kira. Upon reading the title, a vivid image sprang to his mind. On a battlefield shrouded in smoke, two armies faced off, guns and cannons pointed at each other. At this moment, the generals from both sides step out from their ranks, revealing dual discs and decks strapped to their arms, choosing to resolve their territorial dispute with a tense and exciting game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's just too absurd. But that's exactly how this world operates. Duel Monsters is the only way to reach the pinnacle of this world, to wield reality-altering, transcendent power. His mind gradually cleared, and new memories seemed to slowly settle in. Kira quickly figured out his identity in this world. Fujiki Kira, male, current status, Duel Dojo apprentice? Though called a dojo, it's basically a card game training class for the public. Unlike the formal duel academies, duel dojos are open to anyone willing to pay the fee. In the Yu-Gi-Oh! World, playing cards is hardly considered a waste of time. On the contrary, if you can master dueling, your future is bright. Duel Monsters cards have become so intertwined with every industry that even starting a business now requires a corporate dueling agent to handle all business affairs that must be settled through duels. In Domino City, known as the City of Duels, it's said that under Kaiba Corp's policies, you can't even register residency without submitting your deck list. But that doesn't mean the road is easy. His predecessor, despite working part-time to pay for his studies and striving to become a true duelist, knew just like everyone else around him that his hopes were slim. Because he sucked. Being a duelist promises a bright future, but the competition is brutal. Unlike his previous life, dueling here is universally acknowledged as a talent-based career. Not everyone has what it takes to become a master. To put it simply, if you can't even draw the card you want, how can you call yourself a duelist? Kira thought about it and decided that his predecessor's choice to persist, no matter how tough, wasn't wrong. In this world, whether you seek the extraordinary or just want to make your mark in the city, Duel Monsters is the top choice. So, if he was going down this path, his greatest asset would be the years of experience he'd accumulated as a hardcore card player in his previous life. Thinking this, Kira immediately sat down at the computer to do some research. First, he needed to figure out what era and setting he'd transmigrated into. There are many Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, and the later the anime, the closer it gets to the real-life card game environment, which means less advantage for a transmigrator. A quick search gave him the answer he needed. This is the classic foundational dimension, the starting point of dreams, the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! DM and Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. The current time point should be after DM ends, but before GX begins, or in the early part of the GX story. Now Kira had a rough idea of the current card meta. Next, let's check out his predecessor's deck. Are you serious with this deck? Spreading out the cards, he saw a bloated 60-card deck. No, this thing couldn't even be called a deck, it was just a pile of cards. First, the monsters were a bunch of vanilla monsters, no effects at all. Card players usually call these normies. And the whole build was a mishmash, with almost no synergy between any two cards. Whatever 6 cards you drew as your opening hand, they'd each do their own thing. Kira seriously doubted whether this deck had any fighting power at all. But after another look, he got a sense of his predecessor's deck-building logic. It was mostly useless, mainly expensive. It felt just like those two rich, clueless brothers who showed up in the GX anime. They had money to burn but zero dueling skill, believing that the priciest cards were automatically the best. So, they spent like crazy, bought a bunch of the rarest, most expensive cards to build a pay-to-win deck, and challenged Manjome. In the end, they got crushed by Manjo's deck made out of junk cards he picked up from a dried-up well behind the school. His predecessor made the same mistake as those two rich fools in the anime. Many of the cards in the deck were probably bought with money he earned from backbreaking part-time jobs. Seeing their outrageous market prices, Kira suspected that the reason he transmigrated was because his predecessor worked himself to death. But looking at these so-called ultra-rare cards that meant nothing to him, he couldn't help but feel sorry for his predecessor. Many powerful cards are indeed expensive, but expensive doesn't always mean good. In this world, many cards are pricey simply because they're rare. For example, some are made from excavated artifacts, and some are crafted with diamonds and gemstones. Some are just popular because the monsters look beautiful, but they're in short supply, especially certain well-endowed yet skimpily clad female spirit types. So, after flipping through the whole deck, Kira estimated that only a few of the expensive trap cards were somewhat useful. Looks like he'd have to scrap the starter deck and rebuild it from scratch. Kira thought for a moment, then used the internet to watch some current pro duelist matches, getting a sense of the current meta and popular strategies. Sure enough, just like in the anime, duelists of this era mainly pursued raw power, aiming to summon their high-attack signature monsters to dominate the field. After watching a few match videos, Kira couldn't help but feel nostalgic. What a pure world! In short, it seemed like most duelists nowadays shared a common problem. It's too sunny. The world's darkness index is only 8 out of 10, with the legendary Duel King, Yugi Muto, holding 2 all to himself, and the rest of the world owing him their share. Now that Yugi has retired his cards, all duelists look up to Seto Kaiba, the legend who pursues crushing power, and the meta is filled with sunny optimism. So Kira decided on his deck-building strategy. He was going to bring a bit of dark flavor to this sunny card world. Chapter 2, The Starting Deck. Kira logged into both the Kaiba Corporation and International Illusion Society's card search websites to browse the card pools currently available for direct purchase on the market. First and foremost, there was the card that any duelist who transmigrated here, as long as they were remotely smart, would undoubtedly search for. Pot of Greed. Or rather, the early anime exclusive, overpowered draw engines represented by Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed allows you to draw 2 cards from your deck unconditionally. This simple and crude effect is exactly why it has been a forever banned card in the real-world card game, with virtually no hope of ever being unbanned in anyone's lifetime. Its partner in crime is Graceful Charity, which not only lets you draw 3 cards but also lets you discard 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard. As Yu-Gi-Oh! Evolved into an era where graveyard and hand resources are nearly interchangeable, this draw 3 and self-mill combo became even scarier than Pot of Greed. However, in the DM anime, duelists didn't pay much attention to these cards. By the GX era, duelists in the anime world had started to realize their power. After all, in the GX anime, you'd see every main character with at least 1 Pot of Greed and 1 Graceful Charity. In heroine Asuka's duels, you'd even witness Pot of Greed drawing into another Pot of Greed, a truly savage sight. When it came to monster cards, Kira started suffering from some choice paralysis. That's because, after looking through the entire card pool, he couldn't find a single card he liked. As a transmigrated card game veteran, he really couldn't bring himself to use those monsters that required honest tribute summoning, only to end up with a vanilla monster with just over 2000 ATK. There were some relatively good monsters, but many were simply unavailable for purchase, no matter the price. For example, the first card that came to mind was Jinzo, one of the signature monsters of Jounaoki Katsuya from the previous protagonist group. It's a level 6 monster, only requires 1 tribute, has a respectable 2400 ATK, and features the early game overpowered trap lock ability. No trap cards can be activated while he's on the field. Kira remembered that in the real card game environment of this era, Jinzo was also a very strong single card, a staple in top tier decks. But upon searching, he found it was out of stock. Jinzo is an extremely rare card and has been out of stock for a long time, simply unavailable. This left Kira a bit frustrated. He quickly realized that another major difference between the anime world and the real card game was the difficulty of obtaining cards. In the real world, you could always check the current card pool and use almost any card to build any deck you wanted. But duelists in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World doesn't have that luxury. There were also some cards he wanted, but after glancing at their prices, he couldn't help but gasp. Forget it. Kira knew perfectly well that in this world, cards equaled weapons and strength, so he was already prepared to go broke to get the necessary cards no matter the cost. But even with that determination, looking at the sky-high prices of some rare cards, he figured even selling himself wouldn't be enough to afford them. He wasn't exaggerating, he meant it literally. Sure enough, the price gap between normal cards and rare cards was ridiculous in this world. Regular cards and booster packs were about the same price as in his previous life, affordable for everyone. But some rare cards were worth as much as a house for a single card. And those were just the rare cards you could buy. The Blue Eyes White Dragon with only 3 copies worldwide, all owned by Seto Kaiba, was simply out of the question. Further research revealed that, besides car and home loans, this world even had something called a card loan. As the name suggests, you could take out a loan to buy cards. So this is how painful it feels to be cardless, Kira muttered. Fortunately, even with these restrictions, he was able to barely come up with a deck-building concept using cards he could get. The prototype for this deck was none other than a milestone in the history of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!, the world's very first World Championship winning deck. Hand Destruction. Perhaps every new duelist who got into the game through the anime had unrealistic fantasies about dueling, like epic battles between high ATK bosses, intense attack and defense exchanges, and a climactic GG in a thrilling fight. But that's the fake Yu-Gi-Oh! The real Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, at this table, only one person is getting to play. The most reliable way to win is always to kill all your opponent's tactical possibilities to leave them unable to make a single move. This principle stands even today, and it was the same in the early days. Hand Destruction was a deck built exactly with this concept in mind. As the name suggests, its strategy was to destroy the opponent's hand so they had nothing to play, leaving them to just stare blankly in AFK mode from the start, a true ancestor of toxic play. Facing this deck, the opponent's understanding of dueling would be completely shattered. In just a few minutes, they'd go from blood pressure rising, to "are you kidding me?" to "I summon my fist in attack mode," the classic trilogy of Salt. So, if there's a biggest flaw to this kind of deck, it's that the player's personal safety can be hard to guarantee. Of course, Kira couldn't remember the entire ancient championship deck and some rare cards were simply unavailable to him. So he just borrowed the core idea and built a new deck himself. As for the remaining card slots, he just stuffed in as many decent traps as possible. Honestly, from a card veteran's perspective, some of these traps weren't even that great, not necessarily effective. But the main thing was, that having too many traps could break the opponent's spirit. He wasn't some kind of sadist, he didn't do it just to mess with people. Mind games are also part of dueling, and sometimes breaking your opponent's spirit before their LP hits 0 is a very effective tactic. Yeah, that's it. He kept browsing the site, and as his eyes scanned a certain page, something suddenly caught his attention. Jinzo quantity in stock, 1. Kira immediately scrolled back and clicked to check. But he was instantly denied by the website. Access denied. Academy Department exclusive card. Kira was stunned. Academy Department? What's that? After some more searching online, he finally understood. The so-called Academy Department referred to Duel Academy. Personally established and managed by Seto Kaiba, it was the world's largest dueling academy. He bought an entire island for the school and poured in huge resources. Students on the island had the chance to get the newest booster packs ahead of others and could buy rare cards that were impossible to get elsewhere at massive discounts, too. Even ignoring the school's facilities and teaching staff, just the rare card access and discounts were enough to make anyone jealous. For top-performing students, grades and credits could even be exchanged for cards. In a world where a single card could cost a fortune, this saved students a massive amount on deck building. Not to mention, graduating from Duel Academy meant having the most prestigious diploma in the dueling world. Whether you wanted to go pro, join Kaiba Corporation, or work at the International Illusion Society, you'd get a priority referral. Scrolling down further, Kira even caught sight of Chaos Sorcerer. Chaos Sorcerer, Level 6, 2300 ATK. You can special summon it by banishing a light and dark monster from your graveyard, and once per turn, it can banish an opponent's monster from the field. Because it shares similar summoning conditions and effects with the even more famous Black Luster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning, after BLS was banned, Chaos Sorcerer became its lower-tier substitute, affectionately nicknamed Mini BLS by duelists, and is a top-tier card in the current meta. In this world, BLS is an ultra-rare card. Only one known copy belongs to Duel King Yugi Mewtwo in the anime, and another is a display card in Yugi's replica deck in GX. Besides these, it's never been seen. So getting BLS is almost impossible. But if he could get Chaos Sorcerer, that would still be amazing. There were some other decent rare cards as well, all just as hard to find on the open market, and sold at truly huge discounts compared to market price. At this point, Kira took a deep breath. He made up his mind. He'd apply for Duel Academy. And if he failed, he'd try again next year. Chapter 3, The First Duel. The initial deck he brought upon transmigrating was now complete. After checking everything was correct, it was only natural that Kira started to feel his hands itch with excitement. There's no way a true duelist could resist testing out a brand new deck right after finishing it. So, for him, the first target was clear: head straight to the dojo that his predecessor belonged to and look for a fellow dojo member at random to bring him the joy of dueling. Upon arriving at the dojo and stepping inside, he immediately saw a group of students gathered together, making a commotion. No wonder Brother Sato is the best, he ranked up successfully. Kira raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. In the center of the group was a guy with yellow hair and a duelist-style haircut. He sounded modest but couldn't hide the pride on his face. Ah, it was just luck, I barely made it to level 3. Nothing special, haha. Level 3. Brother Sato must be the first level 3 in our dojo, right? So strong. Kira furrowed his brows, searching his predecessor's memories, and finally understood what they were talking about. The Duelist Star ranking system was a real-time strength evaluation metric set up by Kaiba Corp, based on each duelist's performance registered in the company's internal system, basically, the same system that appeared in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime. Normally, a Duelist Star ranking ranges from level 1 to level 8 ranks in total. In the Duelist Kingdom arc, Duel King Yugi Muto and Seto Kaiba himself were both rated level 8. But it's also clear the system isn't absolute authority. Sometimes it's influenced by personal feelings. For example, Katsuya Yanushi, Joey Wheeler, whom Kaiba always sneered at as a nobody. Yanushi was once called the world's third best duelist after Yugi and Kaiba by Pegasus, but in Kaiba Corp's system, he was only level 2 amateur level. It's hard to say there wasn't some personal grudge between the CEO and the nobody. But that was back in the Duelist Kingdom era. By now, Yanushi has long been adjusted to level 8, among the highest ranks for duelists, called by the public a legendary duelist. Meanwhile, Seto Kaiba, ever arrogant, adjusted his rank to level 10. Currently, there are only 2 level 10 duelists in the world, Seto Kaiba himself, and the long-retired, legendary Yugi Muto. Kaiba designed it this way partly because he sees himself as a cut above all other duelists, and also to acknowledge that Yugi is the only one he recognizes as a worthy rival in the world. Well, calling him a rival is a bit generous since everyone knows, Kaiba has challenged Yugi countless times and has never won. As for Kira's predecessor, his rating in the system. Level 1. A scrub among scrubs. It's because his predecessor was both weak and played for fun, often queuing up for matches at Kaiba Corp's arenas and losing far more than winning. Over time, his rank naturally plummeted to rock bottom. Normally, to rank up, you have to play matchmaking at the arena, but it seems that's capped at level 4. To go higher, you need to compete in official tournaments. He then remembered that when researching Duel Academy's admissions requirements, it specified that duelists certified by Kaiba Corp must be at least level 3. In this system, levels 7 and 8 are either legendary duelists or top-tier pros. Most pros are level 6, a few lower-tier pros are level 5. Most amateur duelists cluster at level 2. Level 1 is below average, level 3 is already considered skilled. So requiring level 3 or above for Duel Academy admissions is a high bar. But that makes sense. Duel education in this world is still in its early stages and there aren't many schools to choose from. Kaiba's Academy is among the best, with unmatched quality and resources. In the GX anime's opening, the principal even says in his speech that admissions are strict, so all the students present are elites. Even the background failures in Osiris Red theoretically have higher skill than most duelists outside. So I have to rank up before I can enter the academy, hey. Kira twitched his lips. The student surrounded by everyone was Sato Koji, the top dog in this little dojo, who apparently had a lucky streak this week and just hit level 3, so everyone was congratulating him. Kira happened to be looking for a duel, so he decided why not challenge the dojo boss? Though the anime's random duelists always seemed weak, Kira knew that only real practice revealed the truth. You can't judge by impressions alone without real testing. Time to see how duelists here really measure up. The dojo encouraged students to duel regularly anyway. Sato, having just ranked up and in a good mood, saw the challenge and had no reason to refuse. Hearing there was a duel to watch, the other students quickly gathered around the dueling field. For real? That Kira? Challenging brother Sato. Isn't he only level 1? Isn't this just asking to get stomped? The students chuckled, while the two duelists took their positions at opposite ends of the arena. Sato Koji was relaxed. Having just ranked up, coming back to the dojo to duel gave him a sense of towering over his counterattack. He felt like a master giving pointers to a novice. This duel wasn't about improving anymore, it was partly to guide the younger ones, but mostly to show off in front of the counterattack. Yep, probably more the latter. What, a level 3 big shot like him against a level 1 rookie could he possibly lose? Both activated their duel discs and drew 5 cards. Duel. X2. Fujiki Kira, LP 4000. Koji Sato, LP 4000. I'll go first. Draw. Kira drew his card. In the anime, the first player could still draw on the first turn. In real life, that's been banned for years. The first or second turn is usually random, but whoever gets first can choose to pass. He glanced at his 6-card opening hand and nodded slightly. Not exactly the perfect hand, but not bad. First, this card. He pulled out the first card and slotted it into the duel disc. I pay 1000 life points to activate the spell card Trickster's Twin Demons. Fujiki Kira, LP 4000 LP 3000. As the card was inserted, a green spell card hologram appeared in front of Kira. 2 little demons, one red and one blue, flew out, each with a number 1 and 2 over their heads. This card's effect: your opponent randomly discards one card, then chooses another card from their hand to discard. A simple and brutal hand destruction weapon from early tournaments. A 2-for-1 trade: when played, your opponent immediately loses 2 cards from their opening hand. No surprise this beast got the same treatment as Pot of Greed, banned for life. So, even after years of playing, this was the first time he'd played it himself. The demon swooped in and snatched a card from Koji's hand, as if to say, hand it over. Koji frowned, then selected another card from his hand and sent it to the graveyard. Kira made no further moves, simply setting 3 cards and passing the turn. He gestured for Koji to continue. Alright, now it's your turn to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Any real-life duelist at this point, seeing those 3 set cards, would already be sweating bullets. But, as they say, ignorance is bliss. In the cheerful anime atmosphere, Koji had no idea how bad this was. Koji still wore a kindly big brother smile and said in a teaching tone, "Didn't draw any monsters on your first turn? When building a deck, you need to balance monsters and spells/traps, Kaoruhei. Well then, my turn. Draw." Wait. Kira interrupted, waving his hand. The moment you draw, my trap is triggered. I activate the set card, trap card drop off. When your opponent draws a card during their draw phase, that card is immediately discarded to the graveyard. Koji. He hesitated, then sent the freshly drawn card straight to the graveyard. Looking down at his hand, he finally realized something was wrong. So far, neither side had played a monster, but Koji's opening 6 cards were already down to 3. And he faced an even more awkward problem. He had no monsters left in his hand. The 2 cards lost to Trickster's Twin Demons included a low-level monster, and the one just lost to drop-off was another. Now, of his 3 remaining cards, none were monsters he could summon. But it didn't matter. TCH, in that case, I activate a spell card from my hand. Koji flourished his hand and played one of his last 3 cards. Monster Reborn. The resurrection spell that can revive a monster from the graveyard, a godly comeback card, beloved in both real life and anime from DM to GX. I'll use Monster Reborn to bring back this guy Warrior of Zera, in attack position. A warrior in green armor with a big sword now stood imposing in the center of the field, the first monster of the duel. Warrior of Zera, ATK 1600. If he had a choice, Koji wouldn't waste precious monster reborn on a random low-level monster, but he had nothing else to play. In a duel, hesitation means defeat. He had to seize the chance to attack. Activate the set card Bottomless Trap Hole. Kira calmly flipped one of his set cards. When your opponent summons a monster with 1500 or more ATK, destroy and banish that monster. So, the Warrior of Zera, summoned with Monster Reborn, barely had time to stand before a dark pit opened under his feet. He fell in with a bang, vanishing in a cloud of smoke. Koji. Only 2 cards left in hand. The field was still empty. Was it just his imagination? Sato Koji felt his blood pressure start to rise. Chapter 4, Duelists are forbidden from hitting each other. A true duelist should possess the composure of a mountain collapsing before them without batting an eye. No matter what the situation, they must remain unflustered and never let impulse override rational judgment. Currently, Sato Koji had his eyes closed, taking deep breaths, repeatedly drilling this into himself. It is against the rules to hit people. Because it was really hard to remember this rule when facing the brat in front of him. With only 2 cards left in his hand and nothing he could do, Sato Koji could only grit his teeth and declare the end of his turn. Then it was Kira's turn again, and the fun times resumed. Draw. Kira drew a card from his deck. At this point, Sato Koji's field, both front and back, was empty like a little cute girl in the night tempting someone to commit a crime. In this era of duel monsters, before the widespread menace of hand traps, an empty field meant streaking, the kind of situation where you could be taken down without a care in the world. So Kira didn't waste words, directly playing the monster card he'd just drawn. Attack position summon, Don Zalug. A world-weary, one-eyed warrior appeared on Kira's field, one eye covered by an eye patch. Don Zalug, ATK 1400. Kira commanded, Don Zalug, attack the player directly. The warrior obeyed, drawing 2 revolvers and firing away like a gunslinger. A stream of projected bullets passed right through Koji, the virtual impact making him stagger a half-step back. In Kaiba Corp's latest duel system, summoned monsters weren't just 3D projections, they also had feedback devices to simulate physical impact. It wouldn't truly harm duelists but provided realistic shock and a bit of pain to enhance immersion. Koji, LP 4000 LP 2600. Taking the direct hit, he took a deep breath. Thankfully, it was just a measly 1400 attack monster, he could still handle it. But then Kira smiled, Don Zalug's effect activates. When this card inflicts battle damage, I can choose one of 2 effects. First, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. Second, send the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck to the graveyard. Koji's eyelid twitched violently. Wait, don't tell me you're going to. His face twisted, panic creeping in, his body instinctively backing away. Correct, I choose the first effect, Kira said. Erase another card from your hand. As he spoke, Don Zalug raised his revolver. Bang! One of Koji's last 2 cards in hand now had a projected hole in it. Gritting his teeth, Koji sent another card to the graveyard, his eyes nearly bulging out. Now he only had 1 card left. It wasn't the only duel he'd ever lost in his life, nor was his opponent the strongest he'd ever faced. But it was the duel where he most wanted to hit someone. He hadn't been able to play a single card, could you believe it? Set 2 cards face down. Turn end. Kira set 2 more cards in his back row. This time, when Koji saw those 2 abyssal face down cards, his attitude changed completely from earlier contempt. He could barely breathe. Again? Please, no. I'm begging you, just let me play a card. Even the spectators were surprised by how things were unfolding. The students on both sides looked at each other, all with faces of utter confusion. What kind of duel was this? It just felt weird. Really weird. Looking for fast-paced offense and defense, a clash of power? Nope, only a guy out to mess with his opponent's head. Hoping for flashy summons and big monsters? Nope, just the satisfaction of totally tilting the opponent. Up to now, one side hadn't managed to play a single card, so there was no strategy to analyze. This bastard hadn't summoned a single monster at first, and wasn't even attacking for damage. His every move seemed to silently declare, I don't have to win, but you're not playing duel monsters today. Cowherhey, this isn't how you duel. Koji tried to maintain the image of a gentle upperclassman, but his twitching facial muscles and trembling voice betrayed him. Kira just smiled politely, gesturing, "Please, it's your turn to play Duel Monsters." But as everyone knows, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a cruel game. So long as one side can play, that's enough. Reluctantly, Koji raised his duel disc again. Then, "It's my turn." He clenched his teeth. Only one card left in hand and it was an equip spell. He couldn't even summon a monster. Useless. This was the draw that would decide his fate. But a true duelist would never back down. As the legendary Duel King Yugi Muto once said, "Believe in your deck, and your deck will respond." He believed in his bond with his deck. Sato Koji placed his finger atop his deck, breathing deeply and silently praying. "Please. A level 4 monster." He drew with a flourish, full of soul and style. The moment he saw the card, Koji's eyes widened in disbelief, nearly bursting out laughing. He'd done it. Not only had he drawn a summonable monster, but it was Gaga Gaigo ATK 1850, level 4. Just enough to surpass the popular 1800 ATK beaters on the market, by a mocking 50 points. The strongest low-level monster in his deck. His deck had truly responded to his heart. But just as a grin tugged at his lips, ready to mount a comeback, he looked up and saw that Kira had flipped yet another face-down card in his back row. Trap card dragged down into the grave, number 2. Activates during opponent's draw phase, the drawn card is sent straight to the graveyard. Sato Koji. According to dragged down's effect, Kira said politely, "Please discard that card." Koji almost bit through his lip. With a twisted expression, he tossed his crucial Maji Gyre Panda into the grave, looking down to see he was left with just that lonely equip spell. Turn end, he declared in frustration. "My turn, draw." Kira glanced at his drawn card, another trap. His hand was overflowing with traps, but the opponent had nothing left to set off. So he added it to his hand and casually gestured, "Don Zalug, direct attack." Koji, LP 2600 LP 1200. Don Zalug's effect activates again. Of course, still the first effect. Kira pointed at Koji's last card. "Discard that one, too." Watching his last card go to the graveyard, Koji suddenly wished he'd said it earlier. It wouldn't have mattered much, but at least he'd have kept it. His mental state crumbled, he'd completely forgotten about that. Though, honestly, it didn't affect the situation. Turn end. My turn, draw. This time, Koji drew, but didn't even look at the card. He just stared straight at Kira's back row. As if asking, "No more traps, right? I'm drawing, okay? I really drew?" Kira smiled and waved him through. Finally, after barely surviving the draw phase, Koji nearly cried with relief. He'd never imagined, not even in his dreams, that drawing a card could be such a luxury. When he finally looked at the card he drew, his spirits lifted. Malice Doll of Demise level 4, ATK 1600. Usually just an average monster, but right now, 1600 ATK could save his life. Don Zalug had an annoying effect, but only 1400 ATK. Finally, he could take down the bastard that had been making him discard every turn. Koji couldn't wait. "I summon Malice Doll of Demise in attack position, and attack Don Zalug. Hit him, kill him, die. Don't get so worked up, buddy, relax, dueling is supposed to be fun," Kira reminded him cheerfully. "And don't rush, it's not the battle phase yet. Because just now, I activated a trap card." He gestured to a face-down card in his back row. "Trap card, compulsory evacuation device. Return a monster on the field to its owner's hand. I'm returning Malice Doll of Demise to your hand." The trap activated, and the axe-wielding doll barely got its footing before turning into a card and flying back into Koji's hand. Koji. That was his only card. And he'd already used his normal summon for this turn. So, he was out of play again. What would happen next was obvious. He could do nothing but end his turn, then that damned Don Zalug would shoot at him again, making him discard his last card. Wait, actually, he wouldn't even get that far. His LP was only 1200, one more hit and he'd be done. But in the end, Kira didn't finish Koji off by reducing his LP to 0. Because, before the next turn arrived, Sato Koji, in a fit of rage, tried to physically attack his opponent during the duel, but was quickly restrained by the surrounding students and disqualified, losing the match by default. P.S. Bro, got played. Chapter 5, Joyful Duel. Kira began to discover the joy of dueling in this other world. However, he soon realized that, indeed, happiness in this world seems to be a zero-sum game. As he started to have fun, the other disciples in the dojo seemed to lose interest in dueling. In just 3 days, nobody wanted to play against him anymore. Kira could only look up at the sky and sigh deeply. Now, he finally started to understand why Yugi Muto said he couldn't make friends before meeting the pharaoh. It turns out that people like him just aren't meant to have friends. Things escalated to the point that even the dojo master took notice. The dojo master was named Takuchi Keijiru, who, rumor had it, was once among the top 32 in the town's duel tournament when he was younger. Upon hearing that an apprentice's dueling skills had skyrocketed, that this apprentice had even defeated his prized senior student, and that in just 3 days had made all the apprentices too demoralized to play anymore, Takuchi felt he had to step in. He immediately gathered all the apprentices, first praising Kira for his diligent study and rapid improvement, then criticizing the others for their negative attitude. The master taught, the point of challenging each other is to improve. A strong opponent is a good thing. Otherwise, if you just beat up on the weak all day, what's the point? It's like boxing in a senior's home or kicking around a kindergarten. What do you gain from that? All the apprentices hung their heads in silence, not daring to speak. Enough. The master made a sweeping gesture and beckoned Kira over with a smile. If they don't want to play, then I'll try you out myself. I can give you some pointers on your deck. Finally, someone was willing to play with him again. Kira had several deck tweaks he wanted to test, so he eagerly agreed. So, today's duel would be against his teacher. The teacher was cool. He even graciously gave Kira the first turn, showing the style of a true master. Kira didn't hesitate and took the first move. He immediately paid 1,000 life points and revealed the spell card Confiscation. This familiar play sent shivers through the apprentices, who had suffered from it over the past 3 days. Some nearly had PTSD. Now, Confiscation's effect activates. Let's see, what's in your hand? Kira glanced at his teacher's hand and instantly picked out Monster Reborn to discard. Then he normal summoned Green Gadget, whose effect let him add Red Gadget from his deck to his hand. He set 3 cards face down in his back row and passed the turn with style. Now it was the teacher's turn. He immediately summoned Gearfried the Iron Knight, a level 4 monster with 1800 ATK and looking very cool. But it was useless because before Gearfried could even find his footing, Kira's trap hole sent it straight to the graveyard. Trap hole: when a monster with 1000 or more ATK is summoned, destroy it. But the teacher wasn't done yet. Even though he couldn't normal summon again this turn, he activated the effect of Spirit of the Rock Titan in his hand, which could be special summoned by banishing an earth monster from the graveyard. He banished Gearfried and brought out Titan. Takuchi then had Titan attack Green Gadget. But with a snap of Kira's fingers, a face-down card flipped up a bright red trap. I activate Mirror Force. Mirror Force: when an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls. Takuchi. Stepping into 2 traps in a row, the teacher had no choice but to end his turn. Then it was Kira's turn again. He looked at his draw, then played Delinquent Duo, paid 1000 life points, forcing Takuchi to discard 2 more cards. Takuchi looked down at his now nearly empty hand, leaving only 1 card, and fell into deep thought about life. Kira then summoned the red gadget he searched for last turn, and its effect let him add yellow gadget from his deck. In the battle phase, red and green gadget both attacked directly, taking 2700 LP from the teacher. And it wasn't over. In the end phase, Kira boldly flipped another face-down card. Time Seal. Trap/effect: your opponent skips their next draw phase. You might not believe it, but this wicked card was used by the king of games, Yugi Muto. Back in Battle City, Yami Yugi used it in a duel against the fake Exodia dealer gurus. With his hand wiped out and his draw phase sealed by the Red King, Takuchi looked at his empty field, then at the 2 eager gadgets on Kira's side, and seriously began to consider whether a fist fight was a viable dueling strategy. A minute later, with his LP at 0, the dojo master walked off the field, looked up at the sky, and took a deep breath. He began to reflect on what possessed him to duel against such an underworld deck. The watching apprentices were even more devastated. Even the master lost. Before the duel, many of them still had hope. Each had thought that even though they felt helpless and powerless against Kira, it was probably just because they were inexperienced. If they had the skills of a true master, surely things would be different. But in reality, the master drew, the master played, and the master got GGD. It was almost the same as what each apprentice had experienced against Kira over the past few days. To them, it was a complete shock to their worldview, a collapse of their understanding of dueling, casting a dark shadow over the future of the dueling world, filling them with endless confusion and deep worry. The same thought flashed through all their minds. If even the invincible master loses to this antisocial menace, why am I having this nightmare? Kira's deck concept this time was simple, an early traditional combo of trap beat and hand destruction. Anyone who played Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day knows that, in an era when monster effects weren't as powerful as today and decks couldn't combo as explosively, powerful spells and traps played a crucial role in mainstream strategies. The red, green, and yellow gadgets all search each other to keep their hands full, preventing you from running out of monsters. Meanwhile, powerful traps and spells whittle away the opponent's resources, increasing the resource gap until they just can't keep up. Still, Kira humbly asked, "Master, what do you think of my deck? Is there anything I could improve?" Only then did Takuchi snap out of his deep thoughts, giving Kira a meaningful look. Strangely enough, even though Kira seemed like a bright and handsome young man, seeing his face now just gave Takuchi the creeps. "Pointers? What pointers could I possibly give? You're so damn good, you should be teaching me." Honestly, if it weren't for his pride, he might have considered it. He wanted to learn dueling from Kira. Especially how to play a deck that could make people cry out in despair. "I have nothing left to teach you." Takuchi let out a long sigh, sounding a bit defeated. "Oh, sensei, I just remembered there's one more thing I'd like to ask," Kira said. "What is it?" "I'd like to sign up for the Duel Academy entrance exam," Kira replied. "I wanted to ask if I could apply for a dojo scholarship. P.S. Want more? Chapter 6, Let's win a championship first. You want to go to Duel Academy?" Takuchi was taken aback. Come to think of it, it was indeed almost time for Duel Academy's admissions to open. For young duelists, Duel Academy was nothing less than a holy land. The top students gathered there, and almost everyone who graduated was destined to become an elite. Thanks to Seto Kaiba's management, it didn't matter if you were a world-class tycoon's son or from a powerful political family. If you didn't have talent, all the money and connections in the world wouldn't help you get in. Who was Seto Kaiba, anyway? The world's #1 duelist, wielder of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, the strongest duel spirit of the current era, rivaling even the 3 Egyptian gods. Rumor had it he was developing technology to travel across dimensions and time, trying to open a gateway to the underworld with science so he could duel the ancient pharaoh who slumbered there. He wasn't just the richest man alive, he stood at the pinnacle of both the mystical and technological worlds. After Yugi Muto sealed his deck, Kaiba was universally recognized as the world's greatest duelist. And he recognized nothing but card skill. So, if Kaiba said there were no backdoors and only strength was considered, then it was truly only about strength. No matter how powerful or influential someone was, they'd have to take the exam like everyone else, no shady dealings allowed. He admired strength and elite education. You could see that from the strict hierarchy and the contempt for underachievers at Duel Academy in GX. Many dojos offered scholarships or support for students applying to Duel Academy. If they succeeded, those students became distinguished alumni, which was great publicity for the dojo. Takuchi's dojo offered such support too, but spots were limited each year. Given that Kira had defeated the entire dojo, including Takuchi himself, over the past 3 days, he was naturally qualified. If the application was approved, a student would receive a tuition subsidy and a grant to build a deck. The dojo master would even provide one-on-one guidance to help the student optimize their deck and purchase new cards. Of course, given Kira's situation, he didn't need the guidance, just the money. Wait. Takuchi paused as if a thought had struck him. What's your duelist rank again? 1 star. Takuchi. To be honest, even though he'd seen it with his own eyes, he still couldn't understand how a 1-star student had suddenly improved so dramatically. But after personally experiencing Kira's current dueling skills, he thought Kira had a strong chance at getting in. But a 1-star can't meet the application threshold. I know, Kira nodded. That's why I'm planning to hit the arena tomorrow and climb the ranks as fast as possible. But there's only a month left until the entrance exam. That's a tight schedule, Takuchi mused. If you could place in a public tournament, it'd be much easier. Placing in a public tournament would let you skip straight to a high rank, instead of grinding slowly in the arena. Plus, having a major tournament record would help your duelist career. How about this? Takuchi turned to Koji Sato. Koji, weren't you preparing to enter the Moonlight Cup this year? Although the registration window was closed, I know someone on the organizing committee. It shouldn't be hard to get one more person in. The dojo will cover your entry fee. How about it? This year, Koji was the only one in the dojo to reach 3 stars, so he was the only one originally set to apply to Duel Academy. He was entering the Moonlight Cup to pad his resume before the entrance exam. Placing would be even better. Thank you, sensei, Kira replied. Koji Sato, standing nearby, gasped. He's entering too? What if I end up facing him in the tournament? Just imagining it made a shiver run down his spine. But then he thought, with so many contestants, what were the odds they'd face off? Or maybe, he'd get to see other duelists get crushed by his Kouhei, just like he was. That thought made the corners of his mouth twitch upward. His smile turned a little twisted. Truly, dueling brings happiness. It just depends on who's happy. The first rays of morning sunlight were like gentle poetry, casting a golden veil over a tranquil world. The night faded, replaced by a fresh, bright morning, the air fragrant with the scent of dawn and flowers. At 6:20 a.m., Kira woke lazily from his comfortable bed. Sunlight filtered through the gauzy curtains, dappling the white sheets and soft covers. He'd gone to bed late, hadn't slept well, and had dreamed a lot. He vaguely remembered seeing the black and white impermanence in his dreams. At first, they eerily told him his time was up, but then they each whipped out a duel disc and 2 decks, saying he could extend his life if he won a duel. Why am I having dreams like this? Kira rubbed his temples. It seems he was starting to internalize the worldview here, a world where there was nothing that couldn't be solved by dueling. In 5 minutes, Kira shook off his sleepiness, jumped out of bed, quickly dressed, washed up, and started his day. You can never imagine how terrifying a disciplined card nerd can be. With only a month until the Duel Academy entrance exam, it was time to start preparing. He'd thought, how hard could the exam be? Surely it was just K-language study and application, right? Like, distinguishing between cards that target and those that don't, or chain resolution order, or advanced rulings. None of that was there. There were no difficult, deep rules like those in the real-life card game. The concept questions were basic, like explain what a normal spell card, equip spell card, and field spell card are, just like Mr. Crowleyer's classroom questions in GX. Then there was memorizing card effects. Kira quickly realized this was surprisingly hard since he couldn't possibly remember the effects of ancient cards that hadn't been used in 20 years, let alone the many cards that existed only in the anime or manga. He also quickly noticed that there were differences from the real-life card pool 20 years ago. Many cards that only became real later already existed here. But that made sense. Even Jaden's Key Miracle Fusion card took years after its anime debut to get a real card, so of course there were cards here that didn't exist back then. Looking over the entire question pool, Kira found it all basic stuff, with none of the core skills and awareness that mattered in dueling. It reminded him of a theory he'd read online in his past life. For most movies and anime, reality is the higher dimension, but in Yu-Gi-Oh's world, dueling and cards are the fundamental rules of creation. Dueling is the world's most essential law, not just a card game. So to people in the anime world, exploring the rules of dueling was like cutting-edge research in reality, a search for truth. Learning to duel in reality wasn't hard, but in the anime world, mastering it required talent and tremendous effort. Kira bought a set of textbooks like Fundamentals of Duel Theory and Duel Academy Real Exam Questions, spending most of the day doing practice problems. He also took some time to learn about card design. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime always focused on duelists, card design was only mentioned in passing. All people knew was that Pegasus, father of duel monsters, discovered ancient stone tablets in Egypt and made them into cards, forming the modern Duel Monsters system. Pegasus's Industrial Illusions published most cards, but they weren't a monopoly. Kaiba Corp printed plenty of cards too. Later, there were even more protagonists like Yugi and Jaden, who could create new cards on the fly as needed, sometimes even putting themselves and their opponents directly into the card art. These privately made cards were recognized by the system and dueling rules. After all, this was a supernatural world. Dueling was a supernatural act. So when a protagonist pulls out a blank card and writes its effect on the spot, invoking friendship or bonds, that's just an application of this world's rules, a show of supernatural power. How could the king of games be accused of cheating? Hearts of the cards and making cards on the spot are all part of dueling. If you don't like it, don't play. But, even in this world, card creation wasn't unrestricted. Even industrial illusions designers likely had to follow some rules. What Kira was curious about was what were the requirements for making cards, and what kinds of cards would be accepted. If every card from the real-life TCG could be made, as a card designer he'd shake up this overly sunny world with some modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Power creep. So Kira bought a bunch of reference books and textbooks. He didn't expect to master it right away, just wanted to get a basic understanding. The basics of field spell construction, introduction to environmental modeling. 9 common mistakes in monster card design. Unsurprisingly, card design was a very deep subject here. Many universities and top labs focused on dual monster R&D. Even many old cards still had development potential. For example, the most famous Blue Eyes White Dragon was being developed by Kaiba's research team, the world's top dual monster research group. Rumor had it they'd created forms like White Spirit Dragon, Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, and Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. Or the Chaos Warrior used by the king, which started as a vanilla 8-star 3000 ATK monster but had since gained new forms like Black Luster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, an ultra-rare and legendary monster in the TCG. If only I could make cards myself. Kira thought. For now, it was just a thought. He remembered that in the anime, Jaden's roommate Chumley Huffington went to work as a card designer for Industrial Illusions after graduating from Duel Academy. Maybe the academy offered courses on card design. If there was a chance, he'd check it out. For now, he set himself a new goal. Win the Moonlight Cup Championship, and then we'll talk. Chapter 7, Preliminary Round. The vast arena was enormous, with a majestic ancient castle standing tall as the dueling venue. Even though the matches hadn't started yet, the stands were already packed with people. Kira arrived outside the venue with Sato Koji. Getting out of the car and looking up, he immediately saw the Dark Magician statue towering over the main entrance. Although the appearance rate of the rare card Dark Magician in official matches had plummeted since Yugi Muto retired, as the ace monster of the former king of games, it still served as a symbol at many venues. Well, I'm going to do my pre-match prep. The preliminaries should start soon, Sato Koji told him. Kaoruhei, you should get ready too. Okay. Looking forward to seeing you on the field, senpai, Kira replied politely. But Sato Koji's expression turned odd at these words, as if he wanted to say something but stopped. I don't want to see you again. But in the end, he didn't say it out loud. After parting with him, Kira went to the registration desk and collected his participant badge and number from the receptionist. Looking down, he saw his number, 39. To a card player, that was quite a lucky number. Satisfied, Kira pocketed it and nodded. Looks like my luck is good today. I should be able to start off strong. This year's Moonlight Cup seems to have a high level of competition. He'd just entered the venue lobby when he overheard some audience members chatting. I think I just saw Kaimeki Makoto from the Psychic Flow Dojo. Looks like he's entering too. Kaimeki? That new dueling genius from Psychic Flow? Oh man, this is going to be interesting. Then someone else chimed in, I don't care about Psychic Flow dueling. I just hope my buddy who plays spellcasters makes it through. Is that really what you want? Pfft, I'm embarrassed to call you out, but you just want to see him summon Magician's Valkyria, don't you? Magician's Valkyria, with her outfit similar to the legendary Dark Magician from Yugi's deck Pure Face, slender arms, but unexpectedly carrying more weight in certain places than her petite frame should bear, has long been a favorite among gentlemen duelists. Exposed, the guy blushed. But she is huge. His friends nodded in agreement. No lies there, honestly. Hard to argue with that. As Kira walked through the venue, he soon heard an excited exclamation from a girl. Oh my god, really? Are you sure you didn't see wrong? Absolutely. Her friend replied firmly. No mistake, that's Rex Raptor. The legendary duelist. Kira paused in his tracks. Rex Raptor? The one from Yu-Gi-Oh! DM? He was once depicted as a top-tier duelist, runner-up in the national tournament, back before Yugi, Kaiba, and the other big names showed up in late DM. Is that for real? Isn't the Moonlight Cup a non-professional, Secondary tournament? Why would a legend like him show up? I heard this is his comeback match. Damn, tough luck for the other contestants, he's like the final boss. Yet, looks like the champion is already decided. Kira tried to recall. He didn't remember Rex Raptor too well but did recall his inseparable buddy from the anime, Weevil Underwood. Both were notorious for their unscrupulous tactics, though Rex Raptor was a tad stronger. After all, Weevil once threw Yugi's Exodia deck into the ocean. But in a way, that move made him the savior of all later DM bosses. If Exodia hadn't been dumped, with Pharaoh Adam's late game just draw what I need powers, even the Egyptian gods and legendary dragons wouldn't have stood a chance. Merrick and Dark Bakura should bow to Weevil 3 times each, no question. But after their respective losses to Yugi and Joey Wheeler, both transitioned from competitors to comic relief, with their dueling becoming ever more outlandish. Speaking of Joey, his soul card Red Eyes Black Dragon was won from Rex Raptor. After that, Rex Raptor never won another match. The DM series never explained what happened to him, and he didn't show up in the GX sequel either. But thinking about it, GX takes place only 8 years after DM's ending, so it's not strange for them to meet now. So, even though the Pharaoh has returned to the afterlife, DM era characters like Yugi and Joey should still be around, it's just unclear what they're up to. As an old hand from the DM era, Rex Raptor now bears the title faced Joey Wheeler, and is even called a legendary duelist. These days, even the minor duelists Yugi defeated in seconds claim to be legends, and some make a living off that reputation. Some might really be strong, but others are just riding the hype. Having faced the king of games is about as valuable as the ninja in Naruto who bragged about fighting the first Hokage once. Neither Rex nor Weevil showed up in GX, so it's hard to judge their current strength. Still, Kira made a mental note to show at least basic respect if he faced them, and to tweak his deck accordingly. Kira bought bubble tea and found a seat, browsing through the registered player list. The entrants were generally higher level than those at the dojo, so he figured a good run here would easily get him to level 4, meeting the Academy's entrance requirements. Scanning the list, aside from Rex Raptor, most names were unfamiliar, no other recognizable characters. Wait! His eyes fell on a familiar name. Chaz Princeton? The perennial runner-up from GX, who went from elite to comic relief all in 1 year. He checked Chaz Princeton's profile. A student at the Duel Academy's affiliated middle school, expected to be promoted to the high school division this year. So, by age, the GX main cast should be his contemporaries. No problem. He then checked his first round preliminary matchup. Nakamura Tsubasa, duelist level 4. There shouldn't be much pressure. When Nakamura Tsubasa stepped onto the preliminary field to face Kira, he felt the same way. Fujiki Kira, level 1, no tournament experience, no awards, a blank slate. Just a few lines of info, but Nakamura stared at them for a long time and saw only 2 words. Free win. Sometimes, you get lucky and draw an opponent like this. They're called charity duelists in the community. They're weak but love to play, basically here to hand out points. This is in the bag. But Nakamura didn't know that as soon as Kira drew his opening hand of 5 cards, he silently apologized to his opponent. Sorry man, but I've got the nuts. Looks like only one of us gets to play Yu-Gi-Oh! This round. Kira took the first turn. He played the spell card Confiscation, paying 1000 life points to look at his opponent's hand and discard a card. Then the Forceful Sentry, sends another card from his opponent's hand back to the deck. Then Delinquent Duo, paying another 1000 LP to randomly discard 1 card from his opponent's hand and forcing him to discard another 2 more. Gone. The legendary trio of hand destruction all in one go. His opponent hadn't even had a turn, was still in shock, and only had 1 card left in hand. Because he'd seen Nakamura's hand, Kira knew exactly what the last card was, the spell card Double Spell. By discarding a card, you can use a spell from your opponent's graveyard. Not very useful. Hand destruction combo completed, Kira didn't summon a single monster. He set 1 card face down and ended his turn, looking cool as ever. Finally, he made a graceful please gesture. I'm done, your move. Nakamura Tsubasa was stunned. It wasn't even his turn yet, and he already had only 1 card left. How was he supposed to play? But staying true to his duelist spirit, Nakamura didn't give up. He steadied himself and drew a card from his deck. Immediately, Kira flipped a trap card drop-off. The card Nakamura just drew was immediately sent to the graveyard. Nakamura was in shambles. This guy is set on not letting me play at all, huh? With only double spell left in his hand and nothing to discard as a cost, he could only end his turn, frustrated. It felt like his turn had ended before it even began. Was it just his imagination? Now it was Kira's turn again. He played the spell card Reinforcement of the Army, searching his deck for a warrior-type monster. He picked Don Zalug, then summoned it and attacked directly. Don Zalug's effect triggered. When he inflicts battle damage, he discards a card from the opponent's hand. Nakamura Tsubasa. Now he was left with 0 cards. Seriously? What kind of terrible karma did he accrue in his past life to get matched with someone this toxic? Chapter 8, Duelist Times. Nakamura Tsubasa finally left the stage with a wail. Winning his opening match in the preliminaries, Kira was quite satisfied with his performance this round. Once again, he had taught someone firsthand what it truly meant to be a king of games. He believed that after reviewing the match, this opponent would surely gain valuable insights and, eventually, would come to thank him for it. Kira played several matches on the first day, with a match density that was nothing to scoff at. The Moonlight Cup wasn't an event with high entry barriers, so there were plenty of participants. Preliminaries were held at multiple venues simultaneously, greatly saving time. But nothing was out of his expectations. None of his preliminary opponents were notable figures, and based on the anime, most duelists outside the main cast were pretty average. He hadn't seen any deck builds that wowed him yet. Of course, Kira didn't underestimate any opponent. After his matches, he took a quick look at other games to get a feel for who was advancing. Though his odds of losing to most opponents were low, Kira thought it best to play it safe. As the saying goes, if you know your enemy and yourself, you need not fear 100 battles, and that's even more true in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you can learn your opponent's deck list and tactics in advance and make targeted adjustments before the match, your chances of winning improve significantly. The dojo had already given him part of his tournament stipend, telling him to use it to upgrade his deck. Kira accepted without hesitation. With this budget, he could tweak his original strategy and went on a shopping spree, trying to assemble a few more decks. Card Destruction might have once been a world champion card, but in the anime world, relying on a single trick would get you nowhere. If your opponents know what's coming, it's too easy to counter something Kira wanted to avoid. So, before the tournament, Kira hit the card shops, and with what he could find, managed to cobble together 2 or 3 more fun and competitive decks. He kept switching decks and builds based on his opponent's tactics, making his strategy unpredictable and flexible. This kept him at an advantage and made him harder to counter. Teacher Takuchi brewed a coffee, sat comfortably on a soft sofa in the afternoon sun, and casually picked up the latest issue of the Duelist Times. The Duelist Times, a publication under the Kaiba Corporation, reported all sorts of strange and wild stories from the dueling world. He'd been too busy at home to watch his students play, but he'd heard both had made it through the first day of prelims, which made him quite pleased. Flipping open the paper, he saw coverage of the Moonlight Cup prelims. A malicious attack on an opponent almost occurred at the Moonlight Cup prelim site. A contestant lost control during a duel and tried to physically attack his opponent, resulting in disqualification. Takuchi looked closer, curious. Was this for real? Duelists these days sure had no class, lashing out physically when they lost, with no basic dignity as duelists. He skimmed the article. Real names were omitted for privacy, with aliases like Kenjin and Tomoki. He read on. On the third day of the Moonlight Cup, contestant Shota, alias, suffered a hemorrhagic stroke mid-duel with Kenjin, alias. Fortunately, he was saved in time and is no longer in mortal danger. A stroke from playing cards? The teacher was shocked. Was this year's Moonlight Cup really that dangerous? Wait, he noticed something odd. Both incidents involved someone with the alias Kenjin. Surely it couldn't be the same person? If it was, one time might be a fluke, but twice in a row. Maybe the problem was with this Kenjin guy? Takuchi recalled his duel a few days ago with Kira from the dojo when his blood pressure mysteriously climbed as the match went on. A bad premonition crept in. No way, right? 3 days later. So I've made top 8 already. Getting his top 8 ticket felt almost too easy. Kira didn't even feel satisfied. As expected, this level of tournament wasn't much. Most opponents were local experts at best. Maybe the top 8 would be a bit more challenging. Watching Kira breeze into the top 8 with a look of regret, Koji felt the urge to punch something. Unlike Kira, who seemed to be cheating with how easily he advanced, Koji Sato was eliminated on the second day of prelims. With no matches left, Koji could only come to support his dojo Kaoruhei, albeit with a tinge of jealousy. The good news was, at least he was eliminated before running into Kira, sparing him further public humiliation. And now, at least he could enjoy seeing other duelists get wrecked. It was funny when he was the one getting stomped by his Kaoruhei, his blood pressure soared, but seeing others suffer the same fate was oddly satisfying. Humans are such contradictory creatures. Hey, did you see your matchup list? Koji asked. Who's your top 8 opponent? He was eager to see who the first victim would be. Oh, just a student from Duel Academy's junior division, Kira replied. His name is Chaz Princeton. Chaz Princeton is insanely strong. Chaz Princeton, from Duel Academy's affiliated junior division, was sitting cross-legged on a sofa, basking in the flattery of his 2 lackeys. Chaz Princeton, third son of the famous Princeton Group, was top of the junior elite class, and this year had been granted direct admission to Duel Academy's senior division. The family had trained him as a dueling prodigy from a young age. One brother was groomed for business, another for politics, and Chaz was meant to become king of duels, the future pillar of the Princeton Group. It might sound silly compared to his brother's paths, but looking at Kaiba Sito, it was clear that being a top duelist was more promising than business or politics. So, Chaz Princeton had entered all kinds of tournaments and won countless trophies. This Moonlight Cup was his final test before starting at Duel Academy's senior division. His brother's instructions were clear: he was here to win, and anything less than first place was meaningless. But this time, even Chaz felt some pressure. Because among the competitors was Rex Raptor, a legendary national runner-up who had dueled the likes of Joey Wheeler. Could he beat such a legend? Chaz fidgeted, lost in thought. But I haven't heard of Princeton's top 8 opponent, some Fujiki Kira. Is he a newbie? Chaz snapped out of it and checked his opponent's info. Name, Fujiki Kira. Duelist rank, 1 star. 1 star? He wondered if he'd read it wrong. 1 star, wasn't that like the king of rookies? How did a guy like this make the top 8? Tournament experience and honors, blank. He's a total nobody. How did someone like that get this far? Lackey A sneered. Maybe just lucky. Lackey B said. Still, luck alone doesn't get you this far. He must have some skill. And after this tournament, he surely wouldn't stay a 1 star. Maybe he's a dark horse, a talented first-timer. But up against Princeton, he's toast, Lackey B said. True. Lackey A nodded, then laughed. Still, this Kira guy's got it rough, running into Princeton so soon. He'll have to settle for top 8. Chaz smiled slightly, trying to look cool, but the smirk and his instinctive lean back betrayed his pride. He didn't say it, but he agreed he'd never heard of Fujiki Kira. Even if he was a dark horse, could a first-timer beat the junior division's number 1? Chapter 9, Sent to Another Dimension. Kira walked onto the duel field, facing Chaz Princeton for their first round match. Duel. ×2. Kira, LP 4000. Chaz, LP 4000. Unfamiliar with each other, there was no need for small talk. Chaz saw Kira as just a stepping stone, while Kira was eager to test a story character's real strength. In the card game community, it's well known, most anime character decks are for fun, not competitive. Many tried copying them as kids, only to brick their hands and realize none of their cards worked. But anime characters in action are another story. They have deck bonds or, really, plot armor, drawing their key combos at just the right time, no matter how shuffled. And the stronger the duelist, the more pronounced this power, like GX's Jaden Yuki, or DM's Pharaoh at the end. Still, Chaz's signature cards came later in the anime. VWXYZ was a gift from Chronos to teach Jaden a lesson, Armed Dragon came from North Academy, and not even the Ojima brothers were around yet. So, he should be weaker than in the show. I'll take the first turn, Kira said, claiming priority from the duel disc. I set a monster face down, and set 1 card in my back row. He placed 2 cards, 1 monster face down in front, 1 spell/trap face down in back. Holograms projected them onto the field. Turn end. A defensive play, hey? But against the number 1 junior, that's only natural, Chaz boasted. Chaz hadn't yet faced Jaden's reality check and was feeling confident. But it's useless. My turn, draw. He quickly played 2 cards from his hand. I set one card face down. Then activate spell card destruction. We both discard our hands and draw the same number of cards. Kira complied, discarding his hand and drawing new cards along with Chaz. With new hands, Chaz pressed a button, flip face down card spell card, silent dead. I revive a normal monster from my graveyard in defense position. I bring back the just discarded Amazonas swordswoman. A red-haired swordswoman appeared, kneeling with a shield at ready. Amazonas swordswoman, def 1400. Next, equip her with greatsword, raises her ATK by 300. Anime card. Amazonas swordswoman, ATK 14001700. You might wonder what good it is to boost ATK in defense position, Chaz gloated. Kira was unmoved. He had, in fact, kind of been thinking that. Let me show you, elite dueling is beyond your imagination. Greatsword has another effect. When offered as a tribute for a warrior-type monster, it counts as 2 monsters. So, I tribute Amazonas swordswoman, counting as 2. A white whirlwind enveloped the swordswoman, who vanished in a golden light. Light of dawn, illuminate the path to victory. Legendary swordsman, cut down all obstacles. Chaz raised a card high, his cloak billowing in the summoning storm. Appear. Level 8 Legendary Swordsman. A masked, red-haired swordsman in black armor emerged, a massive sword slung over his shoulder. Legendary Swordsman, ATK 2600. Kira nodded. As expected, duelists in this world were extra flashy with their summoning speeches. Spectators gasped. Summoning such a strong monster on turn 1. A red-haired girl exclaimed. He's not a normal kid. Haha, of course. Chaz Slacky A in the back row beamed. That's our number 1 in the junior elite class, Chaz Sama. He's already been admitted to the senior academy. These opponents are nothing, Lackey B agreed. The top of the junior division. The 2 girls looked on with awe. They'd heard of the Duel Academy junior division, not as hard to get into as senior, but still full of talent. The elite class, even more so. First in the elite class, a true big shot. They began to feel sorry for his opponent. Too bad the handsome Kira probably wouldn't be seen after this round. It's not over yet. Chaz continued. Legendary Swordsman's effect activates. When summoned, he can equip as many equip spells in my graveyard as possible to any warrior on my field. He retrieved 2 cards from his graveyard. I equip Greatsword and Jewel Sword, anime card, to Legendary Swordsman. The swordsman roared, drawing his sword longer and longer. Each gives 300 ATK. So, total ATK increase, 600. Legendary Swordsman, ATK 26003200. 3200 ATK. The red-haired girl was amazed. That already beats the legendary Blue Eyes White Dragon. The lackeys felt even prouder. Sit down, this is basic for Chaz Sama, Lackey B smirked. But Kira, in the duel, wasn't phased. Actually, he was eyeing Chaz's 2 remaining cards. They'd just started, and Chaz had already burned 4 of 6 cards for this painful. Ha ha ha, awed by this overwhelming power. Chaz laughed. Don't worry, this'll be over quick. Battle phase. Legendary Swordsman, attack that face-down monster. The swordsman leaped, swinging his enormous blade. Kira's set monster flipped up a blonde female warrior in black combat gear. DD. Warrior Lady, def 1600. DD. Warrior Lady's effect activates, Kira said calmly. After battling, she banishes herself and the opponent's monster. I'll just send your 8-star monster to another dimension. Chaz. Chapter 10, Not Even Safe in the Graveyard. Dimensional Slash, a once popular competitive deck in Yu-Gi-Oh's early days. Though it never won the World Championship, it proved its mettle and could even go toe-to-toe with champions. Kira's initial deck was inspired by the Champion's Hand Destruction deck, but lacking some pieces and with a different meta, he adjusted the build. Dimensional Slash was one of his current test builds. The core idea, banish the opponent's cards. Mainly using monsters like DD. Warrior Lady, who banishes herself and the opponent's monster in battle, a violent 1-for-1, usually trading a low level for a resource-heavy boss monster, gaining an advantage. Just like Kira did now. And since banished monsters don't go to the graveyard, this hurts decks that rely on graveyard resources, as well as monsters with when sent to the graveyard effects. Kira never experienced that meta himself, but he could imagine how devastating it was for duelists who watched their hard-earned boss get banished in a single swing. Just like Chaz now. DD. Warrior Lady, in a last stand, slashed open a dimensional rift, pulling both herself and the swordsman into the void. The two equipped spells, now without a target, shattered. Chaz's impressive combo and resources were wiped out before his big monster could even attack. But Chaz took a deep breath, steadying himself. Stay calm. It was just an 8-star monster, 2 equips, 4 cards. No big deal. Jewel Sword's effect, when sent from field to grave, draw 1 card. He drew a card, then set it. I set a card face down. Turn end. My turn draw. Kira drew and then played another card. I summon Amazon of the Wasteland. Warrior Lady of the Wasteland, ATK 1100. Battle. Warrior Lady of the Wasteland, direct attack. The warrior charged at Chaz. But Chaz was ready, flipping his set card, trap card draining shield. Negate the attack and gain life equal to the attacking monster's ATK. A rainbow barrier absorbed the attack, healing Chaz. Chaz Princeton, LP 4000 5100. Too bad, but I expected that much, Chaz sneered. Kira didn't care. In this game, LP is just a resource unless it hits 0, it's not that important. I set a card, turn end, Kira said. My turn. Chaz drew. Spell card Pot of Greed. Draw 2 more cards. A staple for every GX protagonist. I summon Darkblade, the captain of the evil world, in attack position. A black-armored, twin-bladed warrior appeared. Darkblade, the captain of the evil world, ATK 1800. Now you'll see, my monsters are elite. Darkblade, attack the warrior lady of the wasteland. Confidently, Chaz attacked. Could Kira possibly throw out another DD monster from nowhere? Darkblade slash destroyed warrior lady. Kira, LP 4000 3300. But Kira calmly started searching his deck. Warrior Lady of the Wasteland's effect, when destroyed in battle, special summon a warrior-type earth monster with 1500 or less ATK from my deck. I choose. He pulled the card. D.D. Warrior, in attack position. DD. Warrior, ATK 1200. Chaz. Not again. He knew this monster too. It banishes itself and the opponent's monster in battle. Seeing DD. Warrior appeared, Chaz could only win CE. Why are these cursed cards always popping up? No, stay calm. He glanced at his last card. He wasn't helpless against this. I set a card, turn end, Chaz declared. Kira glanced at Chaz's set card. It looked like a counter for DD. Warrior? He smiled slightly. No matter. My turn draw. Kira revealed his card. I summon Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, in attack position. A bald monk in robes appeared, looking ready to enforce the law with his beads. Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, ATK 1800. Chaz eyed the monk ATK 1800, equal to his monster. Was Kira planning to trade, or battle? Kira said. First, DD. Warrior attacks Darkblade the captain. Here it comes. Think again, activate set card. Chaz flipped his card. Trap Sakuretsu armor. When an opponent's monster attacks, destroy that monster. He smirked confidently. Ha, trying to banish my monster again? Sorry, that won't work twice. Your monster gets destroyed. Kira raised an eyebrow. Sakuretsu armor, really? Yu-Gi-Oh fans know, throughout the show's history, Sakuretsu armor almost never works. It's like it's cursed. That curse wasn't about to end with Kira. Activate set card, Kira flipped his own. Counter trap 7 tools of the bandit. Pay 1000 LP to negate and destroy a trap card. Chaz winced. What the hell? Even your cursed stuff comes with counter traps. Kira, LP 3300 2300. Sakuretsu armor fizzled, the curse is unbroken. The battle continued, Darkblade destroyed DD. Warrior, but both were banished. Kira, LP 2300 1700. Now Chaz's field was empty. Next, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer attacks Chaz directly. The monk advanced and smacked Chaz on the head with his beads, leaving him dazed. Chaz, LP 51003300. At this moment, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer's effect activates, Kira continued. When he inflicts battle damage, I can banish up to 2 monsters from your graveyard. But Chaz barely had any monsters in his grave, most were already banished. Only Amazonas Swordswoman and another card remained. So Kira banished those 2 as well. Not only the field but even the graveyard was being emptied. Chaz Princeton was falling apart. Too much. Not even safe in the graveyard? Chapter 11, that's the taste. My turn. Chaz said solemnly. He was at an absolute disadvantage, with no means to counterattack in his hand, but his life points were still plentiful. He still had a chance. Draw. Seeing the card he drew, Chaz's eyes lit up. Ha, looks like the goddess of victory is still on my side. He pulled out 2 cards from his hand, sending one to the graveyard and playing the other. I activate the spell card cost down. By discarding 1 card, all the monsters in my hand have their level reduced by 2 stars this turn. Cost down reduces the tribute requirement for high-level monsters in hand, allowing them to be summoned more easily. This is a trick Seto Kaiba often uses in the DM series. And the card I just discarded for the effect of cost down is the spell card Graceful Charity. When this card is discarded from my hand to the graveyard, I draw 2 cards from my deck. Kira. The draw engines in the anime are seriously OP. Just draw, draw, draw at any disagreement. If you put this in the real card game, it'd be broken as hell. According to Graceful Charity, I draw 2 cards from my deck. Reloaded with ammo, Chaz smirked. Things seemed to be looking up. You've given me quite some trouble, it seems I underestimated you. But this is where it ends. Chaz raised his voice. According to cost down, the level 6 Kaiser Glider in my hand is now level 4, so I can summon it without tribute. Therefore, I normal summon this guy. Appear. Kaiser Glider. A golden storm swept across the field, and from its vortex emerged a majestic dragon radiating imperial gold, as if it burned with golden flames. Kaiser Glider, ATK 2400. Your little tricks end here. In an elite duel, only power is the key to victory. Chaz declared, raising his hand. Kaiser Glider, attack Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. The golden dragon opened its maw, unleashing a spiraling blast. The monk wielding prayer beads was instantly pierced, vanishing in a plume of smoke. Kira, LP 1700 LP 1100. I set a card face down and end my turn. Chaz took a deep breath. Almost there, just a little more. He had seized the pace once again, just a bit more and he'd break through that detestable opponent's defense and land the finishing blow. Chaz himself might not have noticed, but his mindset had quietly shifted from a casual crush and advance attitude to only one of us is walking away today. It was like a grudge match had formed mid-duel. He had never wanted to beat someone as badly as he did today. Just the thought of his opponent's life points dropping to 0, and seeing him knocked down by the full fury of his monsters, made Chaz want to laugh out loud. My turn, draw, Kira said calmly. First, I activate this spell card from my hand, Giant Trunad. A green storm swept the field. Chaz had to shield his face with his arms, and his set cards were blown back to his hand. This is a signature card in Joey Wheeler's DM deck, but in the real card game, it's been banned for years. Giant Trunad returns all spell and trap cards on the field to their owner's hands. TCH. Chaz looked at his bounced set card and clicked his tongue. His back row was wiped out, but it shouldn't be a big problem. Kaiser Dragon is a 2400 ATK high-level monster not easy to overcome. Plus, Kaiser Dragon hides a powerful monster effect. If it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, it can return any monster on the field to its owner's hand. In other words, even if the opponent somehow summoned something bigger, it would immediately get bounced after taking down the Kaiser Dragon. The more he thought about it, the more pleased Chaz felt. His opponent had only seen the set card, probably thinking he was safe after clearing the back row. Little did he know, elite duels always have layers of insurance. He was way ahead. I summon Mystic Tomato in attack position. Kira continued. Mystic Tomato, ATK 1400. Chaz snorted, so you can only summon fodder monsters as walls, hey. But something felt off. Wait, Mystic Tomato in attack position? A sense of dread crept up. Next, I activate a spell card from my hand. Kira swept his right arm, and the hologram of a spell card emerged. Spell card creature swap. Both players must each choose one monster on their field and swap control. Chaz, Nanny. What the hell, is your deck just full of this kind of crap? Can't we duel properly? The monster I choose, of course, is the big tomato on my field, Mystic Tomato. Now, you pick a monster to swap. Chaz. Ha, I choose your mother. Chaz had no choice, his only monster was Kaiser Dragon. But this spell card forces both players to choose, so even with only one option, the system can't auto-select. So Chaz could only bitterly select his precious 2400 ATK beater, watching it get transferred to his opponent, and in return, he got a big, grinning tomato. Turning to look, he noticed the tomato seemed to be smirking mockingly at him as if taunting him mercilessly. Battle phase. Kira declared. Attack Mystic Tomato with Kaiser Dragon. The golden dragon's breath blasted through the little tomato without mercy, no hesitation for its former master. Mystic Tomato shattered, the impact knocking Chaz back half a step. Chaz, LP 3300 LP 2300. Damn. Chaz muttered through gritted teeth. But it wasn't over yet. Mystic Tomato, effect activates. Kira waved his arm. When it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, I can special summon a dark monster with 1500 or less ATK from my deck. Chaz. But being a top student, Chaz quickly realized what was happening. In the rules, even if control of a monster is swapped by a card effect, it is sent to its original owner's graveyard when destroyed. Mystic Tomato's original owner was Kira, so even though control had shifted when it was destroyed, it went to Kira's graveyard. This means that when its effect resolves, Kira gets to special summon, not Chaz. Realizing this, Chaz's face turned even darker. So I take the hit, and you get the search, huh? My monster gets stolen, I take the damage, and you get the search. Only someone who spent a decade in the Yu-Gi-Oh could come up with such a blood pressure raising combo. But Chaz was still too young to think this was the end of the darkness. Kira pulled out a monster from his deck. According to Mystic Tomato's effect, I special summon this card from my deck. Don Zalug. Don Zalug, ATK 1400. Battle phase continues. Since it's a special summon during the battle step, my Don Zalug can still attack. Kira swept his hand. Attacked Chaz directly. The one-eyed Don Zalug coolly drew two revolvers, firing a barrage of virtual bullets straight into Chaz. Bang! Ugh! Chaz gritted his teeth, struggling to stay upright. Chaz, LP 2300 LP 900. At this moment, Don Zalug's effect activates. Kira declared. When he inflicts battle damage, I can randomly discard one card from your hand. I'll choose the one on your right. Don Zalug fired again, blasting a hole through one of Chaz's cards. Chaz looked at his now ruined Blast with Chain, suddenly feeling dizzy, almost wanting to cough up blood. Blast with Chain is a powerful trap that can destroy the opponent's highest ATK monster when they declare an attack. Many duelists rely on it to turn the tide when desperate. This was the card just bounced back to his hand by Giant Trunad, and before it could even be set again, it was obliterated in his hand. Chaz, expression grim, sent Blast with Chain to the grave. But there was still a chance. He had one last card in hand. An equip spell, Premature Burial. By paying 800 LP, he could revive a monster from his grave, a game-changing card in many situations. The problem was, up until now, Chaz hadn't had a single monster in his graveyard, they'd all been banished to another dimension. Main Phase 2. Kira played another card. I activate the spell card dragged down into the grave. I can view your hand and select one card to shuffle into your deck, and then you shuffle. Chaz. His face twitched as he struggled to control his rage, silently shoving his last card back into the deck. But the strained look on his face made it seem like he was performing some kind of bizarre facial contortion. And with that, Chaz's final card was gone. If this were a real-life match, it would be over. Expecting to turn the duel around with a single top deck is a fantasy. But in the anime, where everyone top decks miracles, Kira decided to play it safe. I set a card and end my turn. It was the final insurance to seal the game. My turn. Chaz gritted his teeth, staring at the top card of his deck, adrenaline surging. Eliminated by a rookie with no track record, what a joke. He, Chaz Princeton, had entered countless tournaments. He might not always win, but he'd never experienced anything like this. Such humiliation was unacceptable, and his family surely wouldn't accept it either. But it's not over yet. He'd bet everything on this last card. Draw. At a glance, his expression twisted. Graceful Charity. A spell card. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2. In this desperate situation, that's a godsend, increasing his odds of drawing a comeback card. But he couldn't help but remember if only that premature burial hadn't just been shuffled back into his deck. With Graceful Charity, if he drew a high-level monster, he could discard it and then use premature burial to bring it back for a beautiful comeback. But thanks to that dam dragged down into the grave, it was impossible. Chaz suddenly realized that dueling this guy felt strange. The whole duel was irritating at first, but the more he thought about it, the more infuriating it became. But this draw gave him a chance to keep playing. Chaz braced himself, ready to activate the spell, when suddenly his opponent's set card flipped up. Trap card drop off. Activated in the opponent's draw phase, it forces the opponent to discard the card they just drew. Chaz. The ultimate trap, Kira's final insurance, cutting off even the hope of a miracle draw. At that moment, Sato Koji, watching from the front row, jumped from his seat and slapped his thigh. I know this feeling. That's the taste. Chapter 12, Advancement. Did Chaz-sama lose? In the stands, Lackey A and Lackey B were both in disbelief. As fellow students in the Duel Academy's middle school division, they knew Chaz's strength well. No exaggeration, even among the elite, Chaz was the best in their year. And yet, Chaz had just lost to a complete rookie? Is this new guy a monster? The red-haired girl nearby was also stunned, and then turned to the pair. Looks like your big boss just lost. The two underlings looked at each other, then said. Oh, we must have made a mistake. He just looks a little like our big bro, but look closely he's not, said Lackey A. Yeah, really looks alike, haha, Lackey B added. The red-haired girl squinted. So, does he just happen to have the same name too? Yes. The two forced out a smile, gritting their teeth. What a coincidence. It was a stunning upset. No one was more shocked than Chaz himself. Losing was one thing, but he also had a strange feeling as if his opponent hadn't even tried. The whole time, his opponent seemed so at ease, as if he'd just come to play, not taking it seriously at all. He didn't even summon a single high-level monster. Chaz felt he had maxed out his field and applied enough pressure, but his opponent defused everything so easily it felt like punching into cotton. He'd never experienced such a frustrating duel. Wait. Just as his opponent was putting away his duel disc and preparing to leave, Chaz couldn't help but call out. Kira paused and turned. Who the hell are you? Chaz demanded, gritting his teeth. Kira met his eyes and smiled slightly. Just a passing one-star duelist. With that, he turned and walked away, but Chaz felt like he'd been stabbed in the heart again. 1 star? What kind of dumb ranking system is this? How is that guy a level 1? In any case, Chaz's journey ended in the top 8, and he'd probably get chewed out by his brothers when he got home. If he'd lost to Rex Raptor, fine, but to an unknown nobody worse yet, the duel was enough to cause a brain hemorrhage. He must have had the worst luck imaginable to run into this guy. One thing was certain for Chaz. He never, ever wanted to see this scheming bastard again. Kira reviewed his recent duels, learning from the locals and reflecting on his own mistakes. Though he hadn't met any real challenges yet, the process made him realize a flaw in his thinking. You can't just import the real card meta into the anime environment. Hand destruction decks were top tier in the TCG, and still strong here, but just using that against anime aces wasn't enough. First, the anime has draw engines that don't exist in real life. Sometimes a card lets you plow through 5 or 6 cards in a turn. Plus, in the anime, aces can turn things around from empty hands and fields with a single top deck. This isn't superstition, there's a logic to it. As the original says, for a true duelist, everything is fate, even your draws can be shaped. Like how Jaden Yuki in late GX always activates his Supreme King mode in tough duels not just for style. In this form, he has god-tier top decking skills. In the anime's supernatural system, this marks a high-level duelist. Supreme King Jaden, even with a pile of random cards, could crush ordinary players with meta decks. If only I could get myself some god draw abilities. Kira sighed. It seems like all you need to succeed in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to know how to play, but without some kind of supernatural edge, you'll get stomped in the later, god-filled meta. Everyone knows the easiest way to get supernatural in Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't training, but getting a spirit partner. But as far as he knew, all the good ones were already taken, so where was he supposed to find one? For now, he could only keep studying the meta and optimize his deck and tactics. He was still experimenting, his deck not yet finalized. His next opponent was named Kajimoto Makoto, a level 5 duelist. He'd placed in several official tournaments and was a direct disciple of the Psychic Style dojo. Psychic Style. Kira racked his brain. If he remembered right, this style showed up briefly in late GX. It was a rival school to Zane Truesdale's Cyber Style, and in the anime, its ultimate card was Jinzo. But it made sense that Kajimoto didn't have Jinzo in his deck after all. Cyber End Dragon was supposed to be Cyber Style's ace, but the dojo only had one, reserved for the true heir. Kajimoto was just a disciple, no way he'd have the school's ace. Kira had watched his recent matches and saw Kajimoto's deck focused on Machine King, the signature monster of one of the Big Five, the traders from Kaiba Corp and DM. According to the anime, Psychic Style's true ace was Jinzo, but clearly, Kajimoto didn't have it. But that made sense, only the real heir gets the ace monster. With all this in mind, Kira adjusted his deck for the match. He double-checked his deck one last time, made sure everything was in order, then slid his deck into his dual disc and made his way through the dark tunnel to the arena. The MC had finished warming up the crowd. Kira climbed the stairs to the stage, seeing his opponent waiting across from him. Their eyes met, sparks flying. Kira took his place, dual disc unfolding. This match shouldn't be a problem. Chapter 13, Are You a Dog? Kira, LP 4000. Makoto, LP 4000. Today, luck was on Makoto's side. He got to go first. He drew his 6 starting cards, and his eyes immediately lit up. Perfect opening hand.jpg. If most of Kira's previous opponents underestimated him because of his blank record, Makoto was no longer one of them. He had watched Kira's previous matches, especially the quarter-final against Chaz Princeton. After reviewing that duel, he felt this guy shouldn't be underestimated, but in his eyes, Kira was more of an opportunist. Not without skill, but nothing too extraordinary. As long as I know your tricks ahead of time and keep my guard up, I have nothing to fear. Makoto shouted, "My turn." Makoto was full of morale. Without hesitation, he slapped down a card, making it clear he had to fuse right away. He fused Robotic Knight and Machine King from his hand, and immediately summoned an 8-star monster Perfect Machine King. In the real card game, this card was changed to an effect monster, but in the anime, it was just a fusion monster. Its original effect, for every machine-type monster on the field, its ATK increases by 500. And since it's a machine itself, just summoning it is a guaranteed minimum 3200 ATK. Perfect Machine King, ATK 2700 ATK 3200. He summoned his deck's boss monster right off the bat. Makoto thought this duel was already half won. It's like opening with a Blue Eyes White Dragon plus 200 to the face. How do you lose? Then it was Kira's turn. Kira wasn't flustered at all. He began by summoning Giant Rat. A beefed-up, mutated, fluffy giant rat leaped onto the field, baring its fangs at the opponent and letting out a ferocious growl. Giant Rat, ATK 1400. Then, with a big wave of his hand, Kira gave the order, "Giant Rat, attack Perfect Machine King." Giant Rat. With a confused look, as if to say, "Are you serious? That thing's ATK is more than double mine." But a master's order is an order. The rat could only brace itself and charge at the Perfect Machine King. Unsurprisingly, it got blasted to smithereens. Kira, LP 4000 LP 2200. A suicide attack right at the start left everyone stunned. What does this mean? Are duelists this friendly now? Coming to the tournament just to give out free gifts? Could the dojo have secretly paid him to throw the match? But Makoto immediately realized the suicidal rat had effects. When Giant Rat is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a 1500 or less ATK Earth monster from your deck. Makoto merely sneered inwardly at this effect. ATK 1500 or less. Isn't that all just trash? I special summon this card from my deck. Kira revealed his choice, Spell Striker. Spell Striker, ATK 600. A cutesy little guy who looked like he'd jumped out of a chibi cartoon appeared, waving a tiny staff. He looked like he was just there to be cute. Spell Striker's effect allows it to attack the opponent directly. Kira waved his hand, direct attack. Makoto, LP 4000 LP 3400. Taking 600 damage, Makoto was unfazed. Just for a bit of damage? That's nothing. He hadn't yet realized the seriousness of the situation. Kira smiled. My battle phase is over. Next, I equip Spell Striker with the equip spell Power of the Guardians. And that's the end of my turn. Makoto noticed the Spell Striker now had a golden aura, but its ATK didn't change, which made him suspicious. Isn't this pointless equip? Unlike Kira's previous life, duelists in this world can't check the opponent's card effects in real time. Only if you know and remember the card's effect can you react immediately. My turn. Makoto drew a card and declared, I normal summon Robotic Knight in attack position. Robotic Knight, ATK 1600. Since there's now another machine on the field, Perfect Machine King gains another 500 ATK. Perfect Machine King, ATK 3200 ATK 3700. Makoto waved, Robotic Knight, attack Spell Striker. The Robotic Knight stepped forward, but before it could attack, the golden aura on Spell Striker began to shimmer. At this moment, the Power of the Guardians effect activates, said Kira. When a monster equipped with Power of the Guardians declares or is declared as an attack target, place a spell counter on this card. And for each counter, the equipped monster gains 500 ATK. Power of the Guardians, counters 0-1. Spell Striker, ATK 600 ATK 1100. Like that little increase will matter. Makoto barked. Battle continues, Robotic Knight, destroy that puny monster. But the metallic punch just created a golden ripple. When it faded, Spell Striker was still standing, unharmed. Makoto. Why? Another effect of Power of the Guardians. Kira explained, if the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can remove a counter from the card to prevent its destruction. Power of the Guardians, counters 1-0. Spell Striker, ATK 1100 ATK 600. Makoto. Wait a minute. You said the counter is placed when the equipped monster declares an attack, right? Makoto thought he'd found a loophole. But it was my monster attacking, not yours. Why does your monster get a counter? He started to suspect he was being bluffed. Is this your first day dueling? Kira gave him a patient, pseudo-bored look, like a card club veteran explaining to a newbie. Power of the Guardians doesn't say when the equipped monster declares an attack, it says when the equipped monster is involved in a battle during the attack declaration step. Makoto. Is there a difference? Whether you attack or I attack, as long as a battle occurs, there's an attack declaration step. So whenever either side's monster battles, the effect triggers. Kira continued patiently explaining the fine print. Makoto. What? Isn't that invincible? Anytime it gets attacked, it gets a counter, and as long as it has a counter, it can't be destroyed. Doesn't that make the equipped monster immortal? Wait a minute. Makoto frowned, realizing things weren't so simple. But battle damage should still be calculated, he said suspiciously. Oh, that's Spell Striker's own effect, Kira answered. When Spell Striker battles, any damage to me becomes 0. Makoto. Battle damage is 0? Wait, that's not right. Not right at all. Because of the Power of the Guardians, no matter how he attacks, Spell Striker can't be destroyed. Because of Spell Striker's effect, Kira takes no battle damage. And Spell Striker can attack directly. Not only that, but Power of the Guardians makes it stronger with every attack. Hiss. Makoto drew in a sharp breath, shocked. Anyone who can think up such a twisted tactic must be a dog, not a human. Chapter 14, The Self-Shutting Duel. Makoto let out a long, heavy sigh. He was dumb. He had watched yesterday's match and thought Kira would just banish all his monsters like he did to Chaz Prince Tone. He never expected the guy would switch tactics and start playing stall. But why does this guy have so many different troll strategies? Isn't there a single honest tactic? Now Makoto finally realized he wasn't facing a human, but a dog. His Perfect Machine King hadn't even attacked yet, but even if it did, it'd be pointless. Power of the Guardians doesn't say once per turn. Even if he summoned 5 monsters and attacked all at once, it would just repeat the add counter remove counter battle protection cycle. Helpless, he could only end his turn. Now it was Kira's turn. He didn't say much, didn't even summon any more monsters, just went straight to the battle phase. Spell Striker arrogantly flew past the front line and unleashed another direct hit. As it attacked, Power of the Guardians triggered again, adding a counter. Spell Striker's ATK rose back to 1100, landing a critical hit. Makoto, LP 3400 LP 2300. I set one card and end my turn, said Kira. Damn, my turn. Makoto's sense of crisis grew. He needed a way to deal with that blasted combo, or else he really would get poked to death. Draw. When Makoto saw his draw, he burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. Using the synergy of equip and monster effects to create an unbreakable combo is indeed a beautiful tactic. But my countermeasure is even better. Quick play spell Double Cyclone. Destroy one spell or trap on the field. I'll destroy Power of the Guardians. A black whirlwind swept up, and Kira's equip spell was shredded. Spell Striker's golden aura faded, and its ATK dropped back to normal. Makoto had studied his opponent's matches. He'd noticed Kira loved stall and floodgate cards. So his deck was loaded with 3 cyclones and 1 heavy storm built specifically to counter stall. Spell Striker, ATK 1100 ATK 600. Nice tactic, but that equip spell was your combo's weak point, Makoto said smugly. Battle. Go, Perfect Machine King, crush that disgusting runt. Even the Perfect Machine King seemed raring to go. It leaped at the command, swinging its hammer to smash the annoying little thing. Flip face down card. Kira snapped his fingers, revealing his set card. Continuous Trap Gravity Bind. All level 4 or higher monsters on both sides cannot attack. Makoto. You mother F. He had a level 4 and a level 8 monster on the field, but his only cyclone was already used on Power of the Guardians. This one card completely locked out his offense. But he still had options. I normal summon Dark Catapulter in defense position. Dark Catapulter, def 1500. End turn. So that's your move, Kira understood. He remembered this card too. Jaden used it in the anime. Its effect, next turn, it can destroy an opponent's spell/trap card. If this thing survived, it could blow up Gravity Bind and unlock attacks. A neat adjustment Makoto made for the match. A living duelist's struggle against a dead stall player. But it didn't matter. My turn, draw. Kira drew and declared, I activate the continuous spell level limit area B. As long as this card is on the field, all level 4 or higher monsters are switched to defense position. Robotic Knight, ATK 1600 def 1800. Perfect Machine King, ATK 3700 def 1500. Makoto spat blood. Bro, how do you also have this card? Makoto was stunned. He never imagined someone could stall so hard in a card game. It's like he wasn't here for a tournament, but to annoy people. Even if the next turn Dark Catapulter blew up one card, as long as either Gravity Bind or level limit area B remained, he still couldn't attack. He also noticed Spell Striker is level 3, just under the level 4 threshold. In other words, only Makoto is locked down. Kira can attack freely. Kira, just to be safe, I'll play the spell Shield Crush to destroy your defense position Dark Catapulter. Makoto. But it wasn't over yet. And I summon Servant of Catabolism in attack position. Servant of Catabolism, ATK 700. This card can also attack directly. And, by the way, it's also level 3, so it ignores Gravity Bind and level limit area B. Makoto. Spell Striker, Servant of Catabolism, direct attack. Double direct hit. Perfect Machine King and Robotic Knight could only watch helplessly as these two stall monsters flew right over their heads, pounding their master into the ground. The monsters were furious but powerless. Makoto, LP 2300 LP 1000. Makoto said nothing, but veins bulged on his hand and forehead. His rage meter was at 90%. I set one card and end my turn. My turn. Makoto took a deep breath. Stay calm. Stay calm. Like his dojo master said, the more dire the situation, the less you should panic. You never know the outcome until the last card is played. Trust your deck, and remember your daily card drawing drills. Now was the time to test the results. Makoto closed his eyes and prayed. One more cyclone, please. Draw. The next moment, Makoto almost jumped for joy. This draw was a miracle. I play the spell card Heavy Storm from my hand. Makoto lifted the card like a ritual priest. Destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. Heavy Storm, the ultimate back row wiper. You actually drew Heavy Storm this turn. Kira muttered, guess in the anime world, even the side characters get miracle top decks. But... Kira snapped his fingers. Flip face down card. Counter trap Judgment of Anubis. Makoto was still gloating, no way. Heavy Storm is the strongest back row hater, nothing can wait, what's that? Judgment of Anubis can only be activated when your opponent plays a spell card that destroys spell/trap cards. Kira explained calmly. Discard a card, negate and destroy that spell. Then, destroy one face-up monster on your opponent's field and inflict damage equal to its ATK. Makoto's eyes glazed over. Negate Heavy Storm and destroy one monster for its ATK and damage. What? While Makoto was still reeling, the storm faded under an invisible curse. Black mist spread, forming the fierce visage of Anubis, glaring at Makoto's field. By its effect, I destroy your perfect Machine King. Take 3,700 points of damage. Anubis opened its maw, unleashing a terrifying black breath. Perfect Machine King's body melted away, and the dark torrent engulfed Makoto as well. Ugh! A 3,700-point shock sent Makoto crashing to the floor, eyes wide open, as if he couldn't die in peace. Makoto, LP 1000 LP 0. Chapter 15, The Finals. Hello, dear viewers. You are watching the finals of the Moonlight Cup tournament. I'm commentator Kagashi. And I'm commentator Sasaki. The tournament logo flashed across the TV broadcast, and the two commentators appeared on screen for the pre-game warm-up. After several days of fierce battles, the tournament has finally reached its conclusion today. To be honest, this season's competition has surprised us, said Kagashi. Indeed, agreed Sasaki. A legendary duelist, Rex Raptor, who had vanished for years, has returned to the arena. He bulldozed his way to the finals, which I don't think surprised anyone. But I doubt anyone expected that the challenger in the finals would be someone completely absent from pre-tournament predictions. Our number 39, Fujiki Kira, a newcomer with no records whatsoever. Kagashi nodded, and as everyone's already heard, this duelist not only has zero tournament experience, but his duelist rank is only 1 star. Honestly, when I first saw the player list, I thought it was a typo, Sasaki added. I was thinking, hey? A 1-star duelist? Is this some kind of joke? But I checked the system and, sure enough, it was true. Well, sometimes it happens, Kagashi said. There have been cases where a player who never shows up in tournaments quietly trains for years and then bursts onto the scene, making a name for themselves in an instant. It's rare, but it does happen. We're lucky this year to witness a real dark horse rise. Maybe if this were a previous tournament, they might even have a shot at the championship. Too bad. Sasaki suddenly realized he was about to jinx things and stopped himself in time. He took a deep breath. That was close. Professional commentators don't curse players or claim mystical influence over matches. Even if his thoughts matched most people's. No matter how much of a dark horse this kid is he going to instantly defeat a legendary duelist? Running into someone like Rex Raptor at a small tournament like this is an extremely rare event. Usually, big-name duelists don't come to these lower-level events. He probably just wanted to test the waters after years away from the scene. But for the Moonlight Cup, the appearance of such a big shot is like a dimensional reduction blow. Though the newcomer is impressive and must have prepared to make a splash, he just had the bad luck to run into a pro. It just goes to show, that besides skill, sometimes luck is important too. Alright, the match is counting down now. Both duelists should be in the pre-match prep phase, Kagashi said. Will the dark horse go all the way, or will the legend return as king? Let's wait and see. Kira stood on stage, face to face with the legendary Rex Raptor, shuffling their decks. Sure enough, the man before him didn't quite look like the short, underdeveloped character from the anime he remembered. Back then, Rex and his buddy Weevil were the shorties of the group, barely reaching his waist. Now, after the end of Duel Monsters, it seemed Rex had a growth spurt. He could almost reach Kira's chin now. Even though Rex had to look up to meet his gaze, his aura was undiminished, radiating the confidence of a top-tier duelist. Kira was noting the differences between Rex and his anime self, but Rex, seeing Kira's look, seemed to have misunderstood and smiled graciously, No need to be nervous. Just play as you usually do. No pressure, participation is what counts, just show your spirit. Kira blinked, quickly realizing Rex thought he was feeling the pressure of facing a legend. And what nonsense about participation is what counts, as if he's already lost. But Kira just smiled and replied, "Thanks, but I'm fine. I was just remembering how, before I ever knew how to duel, I saw you battling in the Duelist Kingdom on TV." Rex's eyes lit up with pride, his back straightening. "Haha, so I was half a mentor to you. Yeah, especially your ace, the Red Eyes Black Dragon. The legendary dragon of possibility. It left an indelible mark on my young heart," Kira said sincerely. But Rex's face darkened. Of all things, he had to mention that. Red Eyes Black Dragon had been his pride, but anyone who watched the Duelist Kingdom knows he lost it to the legendary gambler Joey Wheeler in the very first round. No way Kira didn't know that he was teasing, like saying, "Your wife is great, too bad she ran off with someone else." Rex's face was stormy. He was probably already planning to teach this newbie a harsh lesson about the realities of high-level dueling. "Oh, and I kept following your matches in Battle City, too." Kira's eyes were so sincere, that even he was starting to believe it. "Especially when you summoned Serpent Knight Dragon in Battle City. That was so cool." Rex's face got even darker. Now he was sure this punk was messing with his head. Serpent Knight Dragon was his ace in Battle City, but he lost it in the first round too, to Esper Roba and his Jinzo. It was like saying, "Your second wife was awesome too, but she ran off as well." No, must keep calm. Rex took a deep breath. The higher the level, the more important your mentality. Even in pro leagues, trash talk is part of the game. Stay calm, don't get tilted before the match starts. He'd show this kid what real dueling was all about. Duel X2. Kira, LP 4000. Raptor, LP 4000. Turn order was randomly given to Kira, who didn't hesitate to take the first move. "I'll go first." Draw. Kira drew 3 cards. "I set a monster in the front row, and 2 cards in the back." End turn. Chapter 16, Kira, the villain. My turn. Rex drew a card and immediately revealed it. Spell card Graceful Charity. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2 from my hand. After swapping cards, he played 2 more. First, he slapped one onto his dual disc. I special summon Helosaurus. Helosaurus, ATK 1400. Oh, Rex immediately goes for a special summon. Kagashi explained to the viewers. Helosaurus can be special summoned from the hand, but lets the opponent special summon a monster from their graveyard, added Sasaki. But since it's the first turn, Kira has nothing in the graveyard, so the effect doesn't matter here. Rex played his second card. Now, special summon a second Helosaurus. Helosaurus, ATK 1400. Rex hadn't been idle in all those years away. He was called a legendary duelist mostly because he once fought Yugi and Joey. Back then, he'd underestimated the nobody Joey, but now, all he could brag about was being beaten up by Joey Wheeler. To return to the top, he'd refined his tactics, focusing on dragon and dinosaur strategies, inspired by Seto Kaiba's aggressive playstyle. Dragons are the strongest creatures. Dragon tamers must suppress their foes with overwhelming force. Rex declared, quick attacks suit dragons best. Feel a dragon's power. Battle first, my Helosaurus attacks your face-down monster. The dinosaur charged. Kira's face-down monster flipped up a small, red machine type. Machina Peacekeeper, Def 400. Machina, an old archetype from the DM era, first appeared in Yu-Gi-Oh! R. Despite its age, it still had strong cards. With only 400 def, the Machina was easily destroyed. Kira calmly sent it to the graveyard. Machina Peacekeeper's effect activates. When destroyed and sent to the graveyard, I can add a union monster from my deck to my hand. He drew a card and showed it. I add Machina Gear Frame to my hand. Machina. Rex frowned. Kira hadn't used this archetype at all in previous matches. Saving his main deck for the finals? Does that mean all his previous decks weren't even his best? That's a lot of confidence. It's rare for someone to hide their main deck all the way to the finals. If you lose without using your best, you're a laughingstock. But whatever, against my dinosaurs, it doesn't matter, Rex said. Battle continues. My second Helosaurus attacks directly. Flip card, Kira said as a trap triggered. Trap card Magic Cylinder. Rex was shocked. Magic Cylinder. Even Sasaki was excited. Wow, Magic Cylinder, the legendary trap from Yugi Muto's deck. It negates an attack and deals damage equal to the attacking monster's ATK. Magic Cylinder was a powerful trap, even more so in a 4000 LP format. It wasn't rare by the GX era, but still iconic. This was one of the few good cards Kira had ground out in his predecessor. Rex took the reflected damage, staggering a bit. Raptor, LP 4000 LP 2600. First blood goes to Fujiki Kira in the finals. Announced Kagashi. I never thought Rex Raptor would take such heavy damage in the first round. Looks like even Rex Raptor will have to get serious now. Rex wasn't too bothered. This was within expectations. He knew Kira loved traps, and his early attack might have been baiting them out. Traps are annoying, but if you never trigger them, they'll just sit there forever. Losing a 1400 ATK monster to Magic Cylinder wasn't so bad. End of battle phase. I tribute both Helosaurus to summon a high-level monster. From Endless Darkness, break your cocoon and heed my call. Level 7, Tri-Horned Dragon, summon. Both Helosaurus vanished in a whirlwind. Golden claws and fangs emerged, and a giant dragon landed with a tremor. Tri-Horned Dragon, ATK 2850. Tri-Horned Dragon. Kagashi narrated. Not only did Rex Raptor launch a fierce double attack, he also summoned a powerful high-level monster. The appearance of Tri-Horned Dragon shows Rex Raptor acknowledges his opponent's strength and is going all out. Bathed in the summoning storm, Rex felt his presence grow even larger. See? This is my new dragon, Tri-Horned Dragon. Stronger than my old Red Eyes or Serpent Knight Dragon, a symbol of my rebirth. Kira thought about saying, that's just a 7-star vanilla monster. But in those days, Red Eyes and Serpent Knight Dragon were also 7-star vanillas requiring 2 tributes. Fine, he couldn't argue with that. But he snapped his fingers. Flip card. Trap card Floodgate Trap Hole. When your opponent summons a monster, it's flipped face down defense and can never change positions. In other words, I'm sending your Tri-Horned Dragon to the Shadow Realm. The mighty Tri-Horned Dragon slipped and fell into a pit, never to emerge. Rex. The commentators. Kira looked at Rex, who was still frozen in his summon pose, and felt a weird sense of guilt. It felt like he was being downright villainous. Chapter 17, Machina Domination. Rex Raptor exhaled. Tri-Horned Dragon got boxed right away, but it was still within expectations. He'd survived worse, like losing Red Eyes to Joey's Time Wizard. Compared to that, this was nothing. But my turn isn't over. Rex drew another card. I activate the continuous spell Mirage of Nightmare. During your standby phase, I draw until I have 4 cards in hand, but during my standby phase, I must randomly discard that many. Kira remained expressionless. Ah, the anime world, where banned cards get played like it's nothing. Then I set 2 face downs and end my turn. Kira drew, my turn. Draw. At this moment, Mirage of Nightmare activates. I draw up to 4 cards, Rex announced. The power of banned cards. Rex's empty hand was instantly refilled. But Kira calmly played his draw, spell card Pot of Greed. Draw 2 more cards. What a fair game. Anyone else could play banned cards. After drawing, Kira continued, now I summon the Machina Gear Frame I searched last turn. A monster card slammed onto the field. Machina Gear Frame in attack mode. Machina Gear Frame, ATK 1800. Gear Frame's effect activates. On summon, I add a Machina card other than Gear Frame from my deck to my hand. So that's it. The Peacekeeper destroyed the last turn searched Gear Frame, and Gear Frame can search Fortress. Looks like Kira's setup was all for Machina Fortress. This is getting interesting, Sasaki smiled. I add Machina Fortress to my hand. Kira then revealed Fortress and another monster card. Now, Fortress's effect. Even though it's a level 7 monster, I can discard machine monsters whose levels total 8 or more from my hand to special summon it from hand or grave. I discard Machina Megaform level 8 to special summon Machina Fortress. A card hit the grave, and the heavy metal fortress appeared, its huge treads and pale blue armor announcing the justice of firepower. Machina Fortress, ATK 2500. Battle. First, Fortress attacks the face-down Tri-Horned Dragon. Tri-Horned Dragon, Def 2350. The fortress's cannon locked on and fired with a roar, blasting the hidden dragon to dust before it ever saw the light of day. Now, gear frame attacks directly. The red mech dashed forward, its metal body kicking Rex down. Raptor, LP 2600 LP 800. The crowd was in an uproar. The legendary Rex Raptor, expected to dominate, was being crushed by a rookie. Truly an unexpected turn of events, the commentators murmured. Rex Raptor's situation is dire, Kagashi said. Totally overwhelmed, only 800 LP left. Kira hasn't lost a single point. Kira, LP 4000. Sasaki frowned, double-checking Kira's untouched LP. Is this a rookie? He'd bulldozed his way through every match with no sign of pressure. Now even Rex Raptor was getting crushed. Where did this monster come from? Main Phase 2. Kira's turn continued. I use Gearframe's other effect. Once per turn, I can equip it to another machine monster I control as a union. Gearframe leaped and combined with Fortress. If the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle or effect, Gearframe is destroyed instead. And once per turn, I can special summon Gearframe back from the equip zone. What a combo! Kagashi exclaimed. Gearframe not only searches Fortress, it can equip itself for protection. And it protects itself too, Sasaki added, so Rex Raptor can't just attack the lower ATK Gearframe. Plus, next turn, Kira can bring it back for a finishing blow. Offense and defense, this combo is too strong, Kagashi said. Is Fujiki Kira a rookie? Sasaki was speechless. I set 2 more cards. End turn. Kira looked at Rex's continuous spell and sighed. His deck had 3 ways to destroy spells, but he hadn't drawn any. If he had, he could have destroyed Mirage of Nightmare and pretty much sealed the win. Too bad no luck. Another day of hoping for a top deck. Damn it, you dare to play like this. Rex gritted his teeth. My turn. Draw. After drawing, Rex's standby phase started. Now, Mirage of Nightmare's drawback triggers I should discard 4 cards. But... He flipped his face down card. I activate the trap Reckless Greed. I draw 2 cards, but skip my next 2 draw phases. A high risk, high reward card. Rex drew 2 more. And then, quick play spell Emergency Provisions. He flipped his other face down. I send any number of my spell/trap cards except Emergency Provisions to the graveyard, and gain 1000 LP for each. I send both Reckless Greed and Mirage of Nightmare to the graveyard, gaining 2000 LP. Both cards vanished in a golden glow and became Rex's LP. Raptor, LP 800 LP 2800. Beautiful move. Kagashi exclaimed. Chain Reckless Greed into Emergency Provisions. Even though the trap's been activated, it can still be sent for healing. Exactly. Plus, by sending Mirage of Nightmare, he avoids having to discard in his standby phase, Sasaki agreed. Rex Raptor is still Rex Raptor, his dueling skills are top-notch. Rex wiped his nose, proud of his pro moves. Too bad, looks like all your attacks last turn were wasted. But Kira was unmoved. To him, it wasn't high-level play, just a question of where Rex bought his superglue. He'd always wondered why, in the anime, Mirage of Nightmare and Emergency Provisions were always played together, never saw someone miss the combo. Chapter 18, Victory Declaration. Now, let's move on to my main phase. Rex's fingers brushed over his freshly replenished hand, a cold sneer on his face. You were pretty cocky last turn, boy. But this is where it ends, this duel finishes right here. He revealed 3 cards at once. I activate the spell card Polymerization. I fuse Sabersaurus and 2-headed King Rex from my hand. The spell card appeared, and the dinosaur monsters emerged from his hand onto the field, sucked into a swirling vortex of darkness. Lightning crackled as the fusion completed, thunderously striking the field and shrouding it in black smoke. Ruler of the Abyss and Hell, awaken from the endless dark abyss. Fusion Summon. Level 6, Hornsaurus. Anime card. Hornsaurus, ATK 2000. This is an anime-only card, Rex's new ace after losing both Red Eyes and Serpent Knight Dragon in the DM series. But I'm not finished yet. Rex continued. I activate the spell card Monster Reborn. With this, I can resurrect a powerful dinosaur sleeping in my graveyard. The sacred mark of Monster Reborn appeared, and a card shot out of the graveyard slot on the dual disc, bathed in golden light. I revive from the graveyard the absolute king of dinosaurs. Dark Tyranno. A pitch-black dinosaur burst from a vortex of the underworld, roaring skyward and slamming its massive tail on the ground to kick up a cloud of dust. Dark Tyranno, ATK 2600. Hey? Dark Tyranno! Kagashi exclaimed. When did that monster get there? Probably when he used graceful charity at the beginning, Sasaki replied. He'd been planning for this from the start, preparing all the way until now. Even after his field was broken last turn, he managed to organize such a powerful counterattack this turn. As expected of a legendary duelist. I see, impressive. But why not revive Tri-Horned Dragon? Isn't its attack even higher? Kagashi wondered. Sasaki smiled mysteriously. Hat, looks like Rex Raptor already has a way to clinch the win. Just watch. With 2 more boss monsters on the field, Rex laughed triumphantly. How about it? The power of my dinosaurs. Ultimate offense crushing the opponent with overwhelming strength, that's my duel now. I'm not the same as before. I'm stronger than ever. However, Kira looked at the menacing Dark Tyranno and had only one thought. Rex, why are you using cards that belong to Jaden's underling Tyranno Haslaberi? His only impression of this dinosaur was as Tyranno's ace in his debut episode, giving Jaden a tough fight though of course, Jaden ended up pulling off a miracle comeback and made Tyranno his sidekick. Next, I activate the spell card Enemy Controller from my hand. This card can switch an opponent's attack position monster to defense position. Rex pointed to Kira's Machina Fortress on the field. I switch Machina Fortress to defense position. Machina Fortress, ATK 2500 Def 1600. I see, Kira said knowingly. Dark Tyranno's effect allows it to attack the player directly if the opponent controls no attack position monsters, anime effect. So that's your plan. Hat, you know your stuff, rookie. Rex smirked, exactly, that's my tactic. And my Hornsaurus can also attack directly this turn, since it was fusion summoned. The audience erupted in shock. 2 direct attacks with 2600 and 2000 ATK. He can ignore the opponent's monsters. Commentator Kagashi exclaimed. Isn't this an OTK, one-turn kill? Exactly, that's Rex Raptor's strategy, Sasaki said. It's truly overwhelming force. With 2 dragons ready to strike, how could anyone lose? Go. First, Dark Tyranno. Using its effect, bypass Machina Fortress and attack the player directly. Dark Tyranno roared and charged, dust flying as it leaped past Machina Fortress to bite at Kira. Then, I activate my face-down card trap card, Call of the Earthbound. Kira raised his hand. When your monster declares an attack, I can change its target. He pointed to his Machina Fortress. I choose Machina Fortress as the attack target for Dark Tyranno. TCH. Rex clicked his tongue. Using tricks to avoid the OTK, hey? But Dark Tyranno's ATK is still higher. Go, Dark Tyranno, wipe out that pesky fortress. Machina Fortress, Def 1600. In defense position, the fortress couldn't withstand the ferocious dinosaur. The beast ripped the fortress apart, sending chunks and black smoke everywhere, leaving nothing but scrap metal. Hey! Kagashi was puzzled. Strange, Machina Gearframe's effect didn't activate. Normally, Machina Fortress would have been equipped with a Machina Gearframe, which can take the destruction in place of the equipped monster. Why didn't it activate? Rex felt a sense of unease, and it was quickly validated. At this moment, Machina Fortress activates another effect. Kira revealed the fortress card once more before it went to the graveyard. When this card is destroyed in battle and sent to the graveyard, I can destroy 1 monster on your field. Of course, I'll destroy. He pointed to Rex's Hornsaurus, which hadn't yet attacked. Hornsaurus. As the fortress exploded, it fired its last cannon shot right at Hornsaurus's head. The dragon howled as it was blown to pieces by the modern firepower. Damn it! Rex gritted his teeth. Bea beautiful. Commentator Kagashi leaped up and started applauding Kira. In just one move, not only did he stop Rex's double attack, but he also destroyed his fusion ace. Rex's deadly back-to-back attacks were effortlessly resolved by Kira. His life points are still at 4000, completely unharmed. The legendary duelist's relentless assault couldn't break through his defense even a bit. Truly unexpected, Sasaki said. Fujiki Kira. What an incredible rookie! If someone told me he was a pro duelist in disguise, I'd believe it. To hold his own against legend Rex Raptor like this, the word rookie just doesn't fit. Then, I set 2 cards and end my turn. Having failed to break through, Rex was a bit frustrated. But at least he'd taken back control of the field. Dark Tyranno still had a mighty 2600 ATK, and though the opponent blocked the attack, his field was empty now. Plus, Rex had 2 powerful back row cards, he should be safe. Draw. After drawing, Kira narrowed his eyes slightly. What a shame. It looks like you might not get another turn. Rex. Not just him, the commentators and audience were stunned. What did they just hear? A victory declaration? What an incredible development. Kagashi almost leaned over the desk. Kira just declared victory against Rex Raptor, the legendary duelist. If he'd said that at the start, people would have laughed at his arrogance. But after seeing his dominance in the last few turns, few doubted him now. There was no arrogance in Kira's voice, no swelling pride. And that's what made it frightening. He stated it calmly as if he were just announcing an inevitable fact. Rex was shaken. He thought his experience had given him nerves of steel, but when he heard Kira's words, his legs trembled uncontrollably. Not just because he was about to lose, after years of preparation, to a total no-name rookie on a minor stage. But because, for a moment, he believed Kira's words. As if, deep down, he truly believed he was about to lose this turn. What did you say? Rex tried to shake off the thought. Impossible. He had a boss monster, he had back row defense. There's no way the opponent could break through. Yes, it had to be a bluff. From the graveyard, Machina Fortress's effect. Kira calmly retrieved the fortress from the graveyard. This card can be special summoned from the graveyard by discarding machine-type monsters from my hand whose levels add up to 8 or more. He revealed 2 cards. I discard level 3 card Trooper and level 7 Machina Fortress to revive Machina Fortress from the graveyard. Cards were discarded, and a metallic storm swirled on Kira's field as the fortress rose again, weapons at the ready. Machina Fortress, ATK 2500. Is that self-revival his confidence? Rex narrowed his eyes, thinking quickly. He must have some support cards in hand. The fortress was 100 points shy of Dark Tyranno. With any equip spell, it could easily surpass it. Plus, Rex's own reckless greed meant he'd have to skip his next 2 draw phases. If he lost Dark Tyranno this turn, he was done. But... activate face down card. Rex flipped his trap. Trap card Inma's Judgment. It destroys any monster your opponent special summons. A black vortex opened under Machina Fortress, destroying it before it could stabilize on the field. Rex laughed, haha. You're not the only one who can use traps. Can you finish me this turn now? Chapter 19, Card Trooper. Trap card Inma's Judgment, Machina Fortress revival denied. Rex even had something like that hidden. Commentator Kagashi said, spittle flying. Even Fortress's revival was within his calculations. And since it's a counter trap, Kira has no way to save himself, the tempo is broken. Can he still finish the match this turn as he declared? Yet, Kira's only thought was, come on, Tyranno cards I can accept, but why do you even have Misawa's cards? Yes, Inma's Judgment was used by the background character Bastion Misawa in GX, and it's a zombie-type trap. If you banish 5 zombies from your graveyard, you can special summon 1 from the deck. But Rex plays dinosaurs. But in the anime setting, using it as a generic trap is fair game. Deck building in this world is more about using what you have. Fortress went back to the graveyard, but Kira didn't mind. Another card emerged from his graveyard in golden light. Now, the effect of Machina Megaform in the graveyard. Kira revealed the card. If Machina Fortress is sent from the field to the grave, and Machina Megaform is in your graveyard, you can banish the fortress to special summon Megaform. The destroyed fortress reappeared, fading in a shimmer of gold. I banish fortress to special summon Machina Megaform. Light particles condensed into a new form. The heavy armor began to transform, treads shifting, cannons mounting on its shoulders. The fortress was morphing into a giant robot. Transformers, roll out. Machina Megaform, ATK 2600. Nobody expected Kira to have another backup plan. Kagashi was flushed, more excited than the actual duelists. This was set up from the cost paid to revive Fortress last turn. Kira had planned ahead by several moves. Are we witnessing a new star rise today? Sasaki discreetly wiped Kagashi's spit off her face and scooted her chair a bit farther away. But as the transformation neared completion, the massive machine suddenly staggered, fell to one knee, flickered, and faded away like smoke. Kagashi! What's going on now? He exclaimed, where's the megaform? Ha ha ha! Rex laughed, I'd already anticipated your backup plan. Maybe you think a few moves ahead, but my duel goes even further. The moment you activated Megaform's effect, I chained this card. All eyes turned to Rex's face-up trap. Trap card disappear. Disappear lets me banish a card from your graveyard. So before your Megaform could hit the field, I banished it. Rex's laughter grew even more triumphant. So? Can you still say you'll end it this turn? Your machines are gone, your plans broken one by one, and I still have my unbeatable Dark Tyranno. Sasaki nodded. Kira had plenty of backup, but Rex is no pushover. No matter what Kira planned, under these circumstances, there's nothing he can do. Rex thought the same. You've fallen for two traps, how are you going to OTK me now? Can you finish me off with Dark Tyranno still on the field? Come on, try and finish me off. If you can. Kira considered. A strange request. But since you're asking for it. Activate face down card. He pointed to his back row. The trap card flipped open. Continuous trap limit reverse. I can special summon a monster with 1000 or less ATK from my graveyard in attack position. When it's switched to defense, both it and this card are destroyed. Hey! Rex raised an eyebrow. You can only revive weaklings, what's the point? I revive this card. Kira took the card from his graveyard. Card Trooper. Card Trooper, ATK 400. Card Trooper Jaden staple in the later GX seasons. By sending the top 3 cards of the deck to the graveyard, it gains 500 ATK per card, and if destroyed, you draw a card. But Rex didn't recognize its power. Just a weakling after all. Is it? You'll see. Next, I activate a spell card from my hand. Kira swept his hand, revealing a green spell card. Spell card Machine Duplication. I target a machine-type monster with 500 or less ATK and special summon up to 2 more copies from my deck. I choose Card Trooper with 400 ATK. He pulled 2 more from his deck. Special summon 2 more Card Troopers. Card Trooper, ATK 400 x 3. 3 monsters at once. Rex suppressed his anxiety. But weaklings are weaklings, no matter how many. Card Trooper's effect, Kira continued. Once per turn, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. For each, this card gains 500 ATK until the end of the turn. I activate all 3 Troopers' effects, sending 9 cards from my deck. A flurry of cards hit the graveyard. Each Card Trooper gains 1500 ATK. Card Trooper, ATK 400 ATK 1900 x 3. And now, my finishing card. Kira played his final move. Quick play spell limiter removal. All machine-type monsters I control have their ATK doubled until the end of the turn. And nanny. Rex, both commentators, and the audience all gasped. The whole arena was in an uproar. All machines doubled? That means 3 Card Troopers with Card Trooper, ATK 1900 ATK 3800 x 3. 3 monsters at 3800 ATK each. Kagashi was stunned. Is this even possible? Sasaki's heart pounded as the 3 Card Troopers crackled with electricity, swelling up to the size of giant mechs. The once fierce Dark Tyranno now had to look up at these mechanical giants, shivering in fear. First Card Trooper, attack and destroy Dark Tyranno. The first shot blasted Dark Tyranno to pieces. Rex, Ugh. Raptor, LP 2800 LP 1600. With no backrow left, Rex had no way to defend. The remaining Card Troopers, direct attack. Cannons locked on, firing twin blasts at Rex. In the flash of fire, Rex's vision blurred. For a moment, Kira's figure overlapped with a memory from the past. Amidst the shelling, he seemed to hear the voice of Duel King Yugi Muto. No matter what card it is, it has value. Even the weakest monster has meaning. To call something a weakling and deny its potential, you're not worthy of being called a duelist. Despite double trap resistance, to rebuild such a field and attack, this was the power Rex Raptor sought. Card Trooper, with only 400 ATK, could deliver a finishing blow. For a moment, Rex almost saw Yugi standing across from him. But the vision faded, replaced by overwhelming firepower. Raptor, LP 1600 LP 0. Chapter 20, Champion. I lost. Rex fell to his knees, hands on the ground, stunned, like a culprit caught in a mystery anime. He couldn't believe it. After years of training and preparation, determined to make a legendary comeback. Yet he lost at the first hurdle? He couldn't accept it. A few seconds later, applause shattered his fantasy and pulled him back to reality. At first, it was scattered, as people recovered from the shock of the duel. Then, someone started a wave of cheers, shouting the victor's name, not his, but the rookie who'd bested him. The legendary Rex Raptor, defeated on his return, had become a stepping stone for a rising star. Congratulations to Fujiki Kira, who has defeated Rex Raptor to win the Moonlight Cup. Kagashi shouted with excitement. What an unbelievable duel! A rookie, in his first tournament, defeating the returning Rex Raptor, and dominating from start to finish. Not only that, his LP remained at a full 4000 the entire duel. A literal perfect game. Rex, please, stop. Yes. And based on my years of experience, I'd say this might not even be his limit. Sasaki added, Card Trooper has another effect when destroyed, its controller draws a card. After receiving limiter removal, all machines self-destruct at the end of the turn. So Kira can draw 3 more cards as the troopers blow up. Meanwhile, Rex's field and hand are empty, and thanks to his reckless greed, he has to skip his next 2 draw phases. So, she didn't finish, but the implication was clear. Even if Rex had one more trick, it would be nearly impossible to win. Not to mention, Kira still had 2 Machina fortresses in the graveyard, just a bit of machine support and they'd be back. The gap between the two was now too great. Rex. The youth are truly formidable, Kagashi said. But in any case, let's congratulate Kira on winning the championship. He had a feeling. This wouldn't be the last time he'd see Fujiki Kira on the tournament stage. Or maybe, for Kira, this was just the beginning. He won. Koji Sato, already in the audience, blinked in disbelief. He pinched himself hard. Ouch, he wasn't dreaming. His Kaohei had defeated a legendary duelist. Suddenly, all the frustration from losing to Kira was replaced by pride. To think, I was beaten by such an amazing Kaohei. He straightened his back a little. With Kira crowned champion, celebrations broke out at the dojo. Tomorrow's duelist times would surely headline the victory, and all the trainees felt proud to be associated with the winning dojo. But no one was more excited than the headmaster. When the champion was announced, Takuchi-sensei nearly fainted from excitement, but upon being helped up, he quickly reassured everyone he was fine, just a bit too emotional. Later, when no one was watching, Takuchi slipped away, pressing his hand against an inconspicuous wall in the dojo. A hidden door opened, which only he knew about. He walked down a secret passage, the only light shining on a single point. In a transparent case, a card was stored. Takuchi murmured. Has the one worthy of inheriting this finally appeared? Champion for real. You even took down Rex Raptor, the big boss. Kaohei, you're amazing. As they left the venue, Koji Sato was a changed man, rushing over to help carry Kira's bags. Hey, why are you still carrying your stuff? Let me help. Kira tried to refuse, but Sato was too enthusiastic. By the way, I heard that there's no order in learning, so from now on, you're the senpai, and I'll be your Kaohei. Kira. Also, you're so calm even after winning, you don't seem fazed. If it were me, I'd be floating by now. Kira was happy, but he'd already predicted this outcome, so he wasn't too surprised. He was more concerned about when the prize money would arrive. The more he learned about this world, the more he realized that money wasn't everything, but without money, you had nothing. Like Kaiba and Chaz, who have money to burn, or Yugi, whose family runs a card shop, or Jaden, who seems to come from wealth. UCI may be from the slums, but he's a heavyweight who built a top-tier deck from scratch, even printing cards himself. Main characters always get new cards as the story progresses. So dueling is a money pit unless you have card printing powers, most people just have to pay up. That's why Duel Academy, with Kaiba's sponsorship, is such a great place. The two walked out of the venue. In the shadows, a figure in a black cloak watched Kira's back as he left. Under the hood, a dangerous smile curled. A green light flashed in the darkness as if ghostly flames flickered in his eyes.
Thanks for listening.